Sleepy town settled for the night, where every lawn is tailored just right. And it's about time that the back porch light comes on. At that house down the street, at that house on Magnolia Street.
Oh my goodness, good morning.
Good morning.
How are ya?
Tired.
Me too.
I'm so glad October's over.
It's gone. Gone.
What a whirlwind. I'm exhausted. I had nothing left to give.
Our pets' heads are falling off. Oh, it's so good to see you. I haven't seen you in a week.
Yeah, it's been a week. I took a week off. I had to. There was just too much to do.
Dude, I'm so glad we did. I know we'll have a little extra work this week, but
Yeah, we needed a breather, I think.
I don't think I could have done it.
I forgot we already have 2 episodes in the bank for season 2.
Yeah, I know.
Because we took like what we're doing now. Because I feel like we haven't recorded, so I'm like, oh, this is the start of season. No, we already have 2 episodes of season 2.
We do.
Oh, okay. All right. Oh wow. Okay.
Oh wow. Hey, Witch
Right.
Hey.
Hey, Witch Hey.
I'm Kristina.
I'm Justina,
Welcome to Magnolia Street.
your one and only Practical Magic Fandom podcast.
We're so like laid back, relaxed AM radio style right now.
Cue the music. Da, 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 da.
I thought you were gonna do the Amas Veritas.
I was gonna do like sleepy elevator music because chill.
Yeah. Well, what Justina kind of hinted at was this episode, we were going to be talking about spinning and weaving and witchcraft and how all that is intertwined, no pun intended. But doing these notes, there is so much. There are so many other little threads that one thing leads to. So this is going to probably be broken up into a series.
Yeah.
So today we're going to just be focusing on the art of spinning fiber and how that's connected to witchcraft and the mythos, folklore, everything behind it.
You had a video on your YouTube channel about this a while ago, right?
I did. Yeah, I will link it. It's over on my YouTube, and I'll kind of paraphrase what I said over there and how I fell into it. But I've been spinning for a couple years, but we'll talk about it.
Is it a hard thing to pick up, or is it like is there a learning curve?
I found it pretty easy once I stopped listening to what other people said. I found it was a lot easier to find what worked for me as far as like mechanics, you know?
Okay.
I don't think there's a wrong way.
No? Okay. Because I know some things are like, it's a little bit of a learning curve. I just realized that my microphone wasn't plugged in all the way.
You sound really good now, but you sounded fine before.
Okay. Because like, yeah, it was like plugged in, but like it wasn't like snapped into place. So the first
you
like
sound great now.
the first part of this episode is I probably sound like I'm in a hallway or something. All right. Well, now I'm plugged in. So, hey, Witch Hey.
Hey, Witch Hey. Yeah. This is what
right.
the 3rd episode in season 2, episode 55.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I feel like somebody beat me with, I don't know.
I feel like a deflated balloon.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't know. I can't
run
even
over.
I can't even string a sentence together.
We can just dive right in. Do we have any business up top? I can't think of much of anything. If we want to put out there, hey, go check out. We did a little overhaul in one of our past episodes, episode 39. If you want to check it out, that was our Sudbury episode, and Sudbury was the unaired TV pilot that Practical Magic would have been, never picked up. But we threw over on that episode. Now it includes our commentary when Justina and I first laid eyes on that masterpiece. So go check that out. And the timestamp is there if you want to skip right to that part.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I still haven't listened to the whole thing like through all the way back since I edited it together.
It sounds so funny because what I did was I took your video and I clipped out all the silences. So some of the parts you can kind of hear their audio in the background, but it's mostly like us like, oh my God, ew, like what is that? Like Tourette
It's like
style.
that Practical Magic in 2 minutes clip that you posted up on our
Exactly.
our Instagram.
Yeah.
At the time of recording this, we're actually recording this on Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. And we know like we officially closed out season 1, it seemed like it was Halloween. I hope you guys enjoyed the end of season 1 because it was so sentimental and so bittersweet, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
I loved listening back. I listened to it yesterday, the All Hallows Eve songwriting process, and that song is just so special. I'm gonna thump 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 that today for my brother-in-law. I might pick up the guitar and give it a shot too. I honestly haven't
Oh.
played any of our songs.
Yeah, try it out. It's so much fun. I love that. Yeah, it's such just a beautiful way to encapsulate the season
Hmm.
and closing out, that I guess the crossroads between those two worlds, like the thinning
Hmm.
of the veil, the end of the witch's new year.
Hmm.
One door closes, another door opens.
Yeah.
It's like the death card. Like we're kind of reinventing ourselves in a way
Hmm.
and just leveling up.
We're leveling up.
Leveling
Yeah,
up.
level 2.
Level 2. Fight. Yeah.
Um,
So it's just a sentimental episode, and I'm just so proud of that song. So I can't wait to
you
get
should
back to
be.
Plaid Dog
Hmm.
because I'm pretty sure we're gonna hit our mark. Like even if nobody else donates today, I think by tomorrow, if we don't have the rest of that money, I'm just gonna throw the rest of the money in. It's like a
We
couple
have it.
$100, right? It's just a couple $100 left to
Hmm.
raise.
Yeah.
So it's not too bad. But by the time you guys hear this, our campaign will be long over, long done.
Hmm.
But we just want to thank everybody once again for everybody who donated twice or multiple times.
Yeah. Oh my
Like,
gosh. Thank
oh my
you.
God, thank you guys so much. And we can't wait to record more songs for you. Yeah, I really hope we can get back in the spring and not have to go back in the winter.
Yeah.
I do have some other episodes like in the doc, just like that I started researching.
Hmm.
So I'll have to revisit those
Great.
too. But thank you for taking on this task of like putting all these notes together because I just literally there's not enough time in a day.
Oh no, I totally understand. I hope you had a blast at your Halloween party. I did not know the beast that I was going to unleash. Like getting into these notes, just I was
Yeah.
like, there's too much. There's too much. It has to be a series. And I texted Justina earlier this morning. I was like, can we do part 1, part 2, or break this up? Because there were so many different little avenues
Yeah.
that came up
You
for
said
this.
your brother-in-law came up with the idea for that?
Yeah, because I was like, this is so long. I don't know what to do. And I said, maybe we can make it into a series. And he was like, yeah, follow the thread series or some shit like that. I was like,
Oh,
bro,
like
I think you
innovative.
got something on. You got something there.
Wow. Yeah. Awesome. I love that idea. And not everything has to be a one-stop shop episode. Like we have the
Mhm.
Witch's Garden series. I mean, some things just take a little more deep diving to, cover all the bases. And
Yeah,
I love a good deep dive, but
I
like
know.
again, if it's more than like a 5-hour conversation, because I feel like we've talked for 5 hours, we've talked for more than 5 hours straight at some points, and
Hmm.
it's
Yeah.
like you can only
And
fit so much.
again, yeah, you guys know if Justina and I are talking for 5 hours, it'll take at least 8 hours or more to edit down that
Yeah,
5 hours to maybe 4 hours. It's just like, whoo, it's a lot.
like that exorcism episode. Whew,
Oh
man.
my God, yeah.
Oh my God. And that was a visual one, so
Yes.
I
Oh,
ended
but
up
you had the cool sound effects and stuff in there too. Oh, that was great. Dude,
I had to pull out all the stops for that one because we were in a room together for the first time recording. So I had to just go balls to the wall with that one.
I think that also unleashed something because I think I threw in sound effects in one of the other ones I just did. I was
I
like,
love it.
I'm gonna put some sounds in here.
I love it.
Oh, I know what it was. We were recapping Salem, and you were telling everybody about your the Poe reading thing, or you went in by yourself and the lightning struck when the guy closed the door, so I had like a little lightning in the background.
Ooh, I'm gonna have to go listen back to
Storm
that.
sounds.
That's awesome. Yeah. Love good sound effects.
Me too. Oh my God, I'm so happy to see you.
Christina's like, I've been with my in-laws all week and
I'm so
I
sad.
need to make time.
Oh man. All right, should we dive in?
Let's dive right in.
Okay, so we're gonna get to the books here in a second. I could not find very much, to be
Right.
honest. I thought at least in magic lessons there would be a little bit because it's back in the day. They'd have to make stuff from scratch a little more. I did weaving, spinning, search for wool, search for like crocheting, blanket, like stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
Not a lot. So again, in this episode, we're gonna unravel the threads that tie together this time-honored art through the mystical world of the Owen sisters. We're going to explore the symbolism and the significance of spinning, and we were going to do weaving and much more, but weaving is going to be its own thing. We're going to touch a little bit on where we see it in the movie, but in the context of witchcraft. So we're going to be delving into the history and the lore that has made these activities such powerful conduits for magic throughout the ages.
Awesome.
So you want to tell us what's going on in the books? Where does it show up in the books?
All right, so if we're going to go in chronological order, the first book would be Magic Lessons, Maria's Story, which dates all the way back to the 1600s. So this says, Rowan, we've talked about the Rowan tree before. Rowan, sacred to witches for protection, for making spindles and spinning wheels. And that was on page 5 in the whole tree magic excerpt. It gives like a list of different things you could do with, I guess, different trees. But that's what it said about the Rowan tree. And the Rowan tree has a long sacred history. Since ancient times, people have been planting a rowan beside their homes, as in Celtic mythology. It's known as the tree of life and symbolizes courage, wisdom, and protection. Look at the delicate leaves, perfectly symmetrical on either side of their stem. They freshly unfurl every spring in bright green and resemble feathers. It's not surprising that before the written word, the ancient world believed that these beautiful feather leaves were created from a bird of prey. The rowan tree's bright berries were symbolically associated with these drops of blood. Red is believed to be the most protective color and is linked to the forces of creation and life. The power of the sacred rowan tree is further enhanced by the pentagram, an ancient protective symbol embedded in the bottom of every rowan berry. And didn't we also discuss the rowan tree being a portal to the fairy world?
Oh, they all seem like they could be portals. I know the hawthorn tree for
Oh,
sure.
the hawthorn. Okay, yeah, the hawthorn tree. Never mind, my mistake.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's okay.
so this one is from the Practical Magic book, and that's the first book in the series. So this says, on this day's outing, the aunts had brought their knitting along. They were working on a throw for Kylie's crib, made out of the finest black wool, a coverlet so soft that whenever Kylie would sleep beneath it, she'd dream of little black lambs and fields of grass. And that's on page 46.
I think that's so cute. Yeah, I
Yeah.
really liked that passage when I was growing up. And then I did learn to crochet, and I made myself like a queen-sized granny square blanket entirely black.
Oh.
And I didn't find it because I was really throwing the book mentions in kind of last minute. But I know there's another passage where it's like it always smelled like lavender. The aunts had a way of making it smell like lavender. And that I think when Sally leaves the aunt's house initially, and takes the girls, they're still kind of sleepy, and I think one of them wakes up under the blanket all sweaty and mad, because they're leaving the aunt's house. That was the only thing I didn't add in there.
I don't know how to crochet or knit or anything like that, but I remember growing up, my grandmother used to do it all the time. I can't tell you how many blankets she's knitted me and like my mom over the years. We still have some of her crocheted blankets at my mom's house. But she never taught me how to crochet or knit. But one thing that I used to do with her a lot was, do you remember those latch hook rugs? It came with like a synthetic grid almost, and
Yeah, dude.
it would come with these like little tiny, like maybe 2-inch pieces of yarn.
You
and
were weaving, girl.
I used to do that with my grandmother all the time.
Make pot holders, man.
Yeah, so that was a fun thing that we used to do together all the time.
Oh,
So
I
that's
love that.
yeah, but she never taught me how to crochet or knit, I guess. I don't
But
know.
you know what you could do? And it could be the same thing as a granny square, because those are like a little 8x8 square or 6x6 square. Do all those, make a stack of those squares, and then put them all together. You got yourself
True,
a
yeah.
blanket. Mm-hmm.
You could do that. It might be a little heavy because those grids are kind of not heavy, but like once all those little yarns are attached to them, it could be pretty heavy. I think I used to actually make pillows with them. They make them a little bigger, like pillow sized.
Do they stay on the grid?
Yeah,
Or do
like
they take them
you
off?
latch it,
Oh, okay.
you latch the yarn through and you pull it through, and then by the end you have like a pattern. I think they sell kits. I think they sell
Yeah.
latch kits. Like you can actually pick what pattern you want, and then
Okay.
once you have the sheet with all the yarns through it, you could make like it's like a pillow face, and you just attach a different like kind of fabric backing and then stuff it.
Cool. Okay.
So
Okay. I was
a lot
thinking
of
of
fun.
something else.
Yeah, those are fun. So there's only one more mention in the Practical Magic book, and this is on page 60. And this says, on quiet nights, she, referring to Kylie, curls up on her bed, clutching her old baby blanket, the black wool one that still does not have a single hole, since it somehow seems to repel moths.
So magical.
Yeah.
Or is it? Is it just practical?
Is it? Yeah, exactly. Didn't we talk about moths before? And I think it was in the portrait episode because remember how they were saying how they had to wrap the portraits and put them in the attic?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, probably because of moths. If these aunts just like magically are able to repel moths, then I don't know why they would
Why
have
didn't they
to.
use it for the canvas?
Why do they have to wrap a painting for the moths, but not
Yeah.
the blankets? I don't know.
Yeah. We also talked about moths in the Thorn Apple episode about the pollution,
Oh yeah,
pollination.
pollution. Yeah. You're right.
So Justina mentioned before, I do have a video about the following, what I'm going to tell you. But if you want to see me actually doing a little bit of spinning, not on a wheel, but on a portable spindle, you can go watch that. I'll link it. But my first introduction to any kind of wool spinning or weaving was through my mom. This woman's like a Puritan woman. She knows how to fucking do everything.
She's a Renaissance woman.
She's a Renaissance woman. She
Yeah.
used to cart us to like all these different library events where she taught youth classes the technique and the work involved in processing raw wool into like a usable fiber.
So, question.
Yes.
When you say raw wool, you mean directly from a sheep or a lamb or something?
I could go get my diorama. No. I have a bag. Yes, I actually do have a bag of raw alpaca wool. And you should wash it, and you're supposed to like pick out any debris or any little poopies. And then you take these two, they look like big dog brushes,
Yeah.
and it's called carding, and it pulls the fibers apart and makes it really, really soft. So that way it's spinnable. You can
Right.
spin it.
Another question.
Yeah.
Did you grow up with like farm animals at all? Because I know you guys were like rural PA, right? You were in Pennsylvania?
We were suburbs. We didn't have any animals, but she knew, I guess she had traded eggs or something and
Barter
got a
method.
spindle in return. I don't know.
Love it.
Chambers Hill was weird.
It was a weird time. No, I love that. I'm just asking because like I'm like wondering if you don't have animals like farm animals on your land, where do you get the wool from?
They make
So she-
synthetic now, fiber
Okay.
too.
Okay.
Yeah, I
got
feel
it.
like I don't know what she would have used. I was so small, when
Yeah.
she was doing this.
That's so
but-
cool that you grew up with this though. Like you
It
just sort of
is.
grew with this.
I don't know
Awesome.
how she got into it. I think her study, and I asked her to contribute to the weaving because she still does loom weaving,
Yeah.
and so we'll talk about her in that episode. But I don't know when she got into it, why she got into it, but her study was, as a art history, education, museum studies kind of thing. So I think that kind of history always influenced her,
Oh yeah.
But
Awesome.
yeah, we did grow up with the spinning wheel in our house. I have it at my house now, and like a few different size looms also. So the looms are, for people who don't know, it's how you can weave together like large tablecloths or linen of some kind, but they come in all different sizes. So had one that was so big, it was kept in the basement that the cousins and I would use it as like the prime, like a hide and go seek spot.
Oh.
So big you could like climb up into it. And then we had a smaller one that was just for us kids, and it was big enough to make the like mandolin shoulder straps, like other guitar straps,
Oh, cool.
for
Okay.
your shoulder. Yeah, so the one that was in the basement was so cool, and I think my mom has that one at her house now. So she still uses it. She makes me like tea towels and stuff. They're so pretty.
So the one that you have, did you inherit that? Did your mom give you that, or is yours like you just purchased that on your own?
The spinning wheel I inherited from her. I don't have a loom at my house. And like you and I talked about, of course, we had one of those like little square things to make pot holders and stuff. You weave it on, in that little square, and then you pop it off and you make sure the ends are all tied off. But many, many years later, I still had this fascination with learning how to create things like the old fashioned way. And I'd been wanting to learn how to process wool and spin it into yarn for a long time. And I eventually attended a class in town. I don't know if I had it in my mind that I just wanted to, if the grid went down, like I wanted to know how to do shit.
Right.
So I realized that I had heard before through my priestess training course that spinning wool and what are called distaffs, those are the things that hold the wool, were part of a bigger, older, more magical story. And we learned about this magical connection through the priestess training course I took years before. Our guest speaker was a woman by the name of Max Dashew. And Max Dashew founded the Suppressed History Archives in the 1970s. And this will be linked also if you want to check out this site. And this was to document the global women's history. She's also internationally known for her visual presentations, DVDs, webcasts. This woman's just incredible. And in her first lecture, she discussed her book called Witches and Pagans. And this will be linked as well. The information I'm going to present is through this book. Over the next few minutes, you're going to hear me slaughter a lot of probably really beautiful Icelandic words and terms, and I apologize in advance. But one of the words I'm going to use is vulva. V with a O with the umlauts, LVA. And it sounds very similar to an English word we all know and love, right? The vulva. However, the word in Icelandic vulva comes from the word vular, meaning wand or staff. And this title was given to the women of the town who were basically like the seers and the healers. They were the knowing women who were very close with the chieftains and like the higher ups in the community. And from Max Dashu's book, she says one of the most venerable poems of the Icelandic Edda was named the Vulva Prophecy. Inspired oracle prophecy by female figures occurs in the plots of many ages. Most of the depictions have to do with a woman's knowledge of someone's urlog. I'm telling you, the spread of a person's life that leads to their death. And that makes you think of like the fates from Greek mythology, which we're going to talk about later, because you had linked them and I was like, oh, perfect. Let's get into that. So she writes that the witch's equipment is simple: a platform, a staff, a herder's cloak, skin, rub kerchief, possibly a sealskin bag. I have not delved into this book, so like skin, rub, and a herder's cloak, I have no idea. So if these women were these poignant figures in their villages or their towns, they knew everybody, and they were probably given very proper burials, and along with them their tools and their other important things that they would need would be buried with them so they could carry it into the afterlife. And it sounds like until pretty recently, archaeologists discovering these women of the town who were the seers were seeing these staffs, these distaffs buried alongside them, and were chalking it up to these female graves having meat roasting spits buried beside them because they're women, and not attributing it to their status as seer women or as witches of the time. If you're able to look at Max's book, you can see some really amazing sketches of what these staffs look like. And they don't look like meat roasting spits at all. And some of them are very intricately adorned. They have like a knob on the top where your hand would be. There are some that are open cage-like formations. There are some that have animal heads carved into them. And Max says in her book, most of the surviving staffs were made of iron. And quite a few of them share design features in which the rod separates out into like 4 or more bars that curve around an enclosed space and then rejoin at the top. So do you remember when we were talking about the thorn apple and how the seed pod like pops open like that?
Yeah.
In those 4 chambers, it's kind of like that. Oh. And then they join back at the top, and that's where the wool would be held, so it was out of the way. So these unique formations have often been linked to baskets, and some describe them as having an expanded or basket-like handle or as open work devices. The designer of these structures was inspired by distaffs, which were typically equipped with a cage at the end where the woman could conveniently hold the extra wool or flax for their spinning. And these design concepts hint at an interesting connection between these staffs and the magical world of distaffs. The term distaff itself carries a meaningful interpretation, essentially meaning staff with flax. It's intriguing to note that before witches were commonly associated with riding brooms, there were tales of them riding around on these distaffs.
So distaffs, they were riding around on these distaffs, so like basically just a staff, no, I guess, wheat or corn straw or whatever it is that they used to make these brooms. It's just a staff they were riding around on.
Yeah, and they could have those like cages at the end that were used for holding the flax. But yeah. So beyond their role in spinning wool and their potential magical properties, distaffs have a practical use in transportation. These remarkable links to distaffs extend to the use of various spindles, each carrying its own mythological significance. These themes are also reoccurring in many fairy tales, such as the spinning wheel, the Wheel of Fate, as exemplified in the story of Rumpelstiltskin, which we're going to talk more about later. In this narrative, the girl's task is to transform the straw into gold. And another well-known tale is Sleeping Beauty, where Aurora pricks her finger on the spinning wheel. While alchemy is typically associated with the transformation of chemicals into another substance, it's kind of thought-provoking to consider whether it might encompass broader ideas of changing one thing into another. Like spinning wool involves caring for the animals, shearing the wool, cleaning and processing it, and most importantly, spinning it with intention. And over time, these threads are woven together to create fabric that ultimately saved the lives of like a lot of our ancestors, you know? And besides the common spindle, there are also other variants known as drop spindles, Turkish spindles, and many practitioners carve runes or inscribe chants or prayers, affirmations into their tools. You know, it's their wand, it's their creation tool, effectively spinning the thread of intent. So this rich historical background offers a valuable perspective for those who engage in spinning or have an interest in diverse forms of magic, given its deep historical roots. And our ancestors once relied on these skills to create essential clothing and everyday items from animal wool, often without considering its magical ritual. And today we often take the convenience of picking up items from the store or ordering them online for granted, unaware of the significant intention woven into these products. And you had asked earlier, like, was there a learning curve? And during the class, I did observe a technique that was decent, but like the real fascination was watching how other people did it. And there's so many different techniques you can use. And I learned about using a drop spindle while you learned about using the supported spindle and the spinning wheel. And there's something about sitting behind a spinning wheel that can be so mesmerizing. I know at some point we're going to talk about the meditative practice that comes with something like this. I really enjoy just sitting there and zoning out. I haven't done it in a long time.
Yeah.
So that just is like a really brief overview about how I came to it and how I found this connection. There's a fucking huge spider. Oh, Lordy B. Hold on. Yeah, 1 second. Happy Halloween.
Oh my God, Lacey.
Oh my God, it's in my headphone. Oh my God, it's gone now.
Oh no.
All right, well, happy Halloween, everybody. But all right,
ninja.
Lastly, I want to say for crafters, whether you're a crocheter, knitter, sewer, like take a moment and reflect on the sense of empowerment and fulfillment that comes from that creative process. You're literally making something physical out of nothing. And I think that's very powerful. So let's get into where we see spinning in the film. We're going to just keep cruising.
All right, so we're going to get into spinning and weaving in the practical magic movie. So the appearance of any type of fiber art within the practical magic film comes to us around 5 minutes and 28 seconds, so kind of early on in the film, when young Sally and Jillian are practicing their spells at the table. So this is like when Sally's like, she's got all that chocolate around her, right?
Oh, yeah.
But let's back up a little bit. Let's talk about what was happening just before this scene. So we hear through Aunt Franny the Owens family history. We also get a visual of little snippets of the past and how they're linked to the women sitting at the table in the garden. Aunt Franny is weaving this story together for them. To the best of her knowledge, everything that she's saying is true, but she is delivering it in such a way that gives us the feeling that it could very well be a tall tale. But if we're going to live in this fantasy world in which a woman convicted and sentenced to death was able to leap from the gallows, causing the noose rope to break, ultimately saving her life, then we also have to believe Franny when she insists that whatever happened to her, quote, poor Ethan was, in fact, fate. In that conversation between the aunts, it seems that Franny is fully aware of the powers and influence of the fates and their connection to measuring, spinning, and cutting the threads of life. Like, quite literally, right?
Yeah.
So because in the very next scene, our beloved aunts are in their element, they're spinning and weaving their own fates, as it were. In this scene, where we see the aunts crafting away, is almost a catalyst for the rest of the movie, and the rest of the story that they're about to weave together as a family. Our favorite desperate-ass bitch, Irene... No chill Irene comes to the back door right in the middle of this DIY session, and young Sally and Jillian are encouraged after hearing her words and seeing Irene's desperate actions to lay down their own intent, to weave their own fate. So we have some screenshots here. Did you want to talk about these individually, or how did you want to go about this?
These are just for the notes, so patrons, we'll have some screenshots for you, but we're going to talk a little bit about the tools that we see in these scenes in particular. So I just had them there for our visual reference, but they'll be in our notes.
Okay. All right. So around 1 hour, 23 minutes, and 29 seconds, we have the scene in which Sally backhands Jillian, when Jimmy was kind of like possessing her, into the cabinet of spooled yarn, sending them tumbling to the ground. But just before that, when Jillian, aka Jimmy, is basically slithering into the room, the big, beautiful spinning wheel can actually be seen behind her.
So do you feel that way as far as those little tiny stepping stones and the visual of like the weaving and the spinning being in that specific scene between the aunts telling the story and what Sally and Jilly witness that ultimately shapes their two separate paths, you know?
It's an interesting connection that I would not have never put together, but I like that idea of them literally weaving the story because like you said, like is it a tall tale? Like this is a story that's been passed down generations. Like this is a centuries old quote curse. It's a game of telephone, right? Who knows
Right.
from one ancestor to the next, who knows how much of that story is actually the truth.
Sure.
So them weaving and kind of spinning their own version of the story to pass down to the next generation, which is Jillian and Sally.
Hmm.
Totally, 100%. I could totally see that.
And if we really want to like split hairs here, when Sally knocks Jillian into the spools and all those spools come tumbling down, that's like the boom. All right, we are breaking this narrative, right? Like
Breaking
stuff,
they're cutting the thread.
right?
They're
Oh,
literally cutting the thread and dispelling, or, as we still don't know if this curse was broken in that exorcism scene.
yeah.
We don't know if that's what was done.
Mm-mm.
But there's quite a debate going on over in our
On
Discord,
the
which
Discord, join the Discord.
is a lot of fun.
Yeah, and that's great. I love that. Even
Yeah.
if we hear the exact same thing with the exact same inflection, we
Yeah.
can take something totally different from the next person.
Right. Yeah. So it's just them weaving this story, putting their own spin on it, and then yeah, those threads fall, those spindles, those spools of wool falling at the end, kind of maybe just cutting that thread and dispelling maybe any of the lies that they've been told or any of the
Mhm.
tall tales that they've been told, bringing the
Mhm.
truth to light at the end of the film, so they can kind of clear the slate a little bit and start fresh, which is what I feel like that last scene with the exorcism. I feel like that's what they did. If they didn't break the curse, they at least cleaned the slate a little bit so they can kind of start fresh.
Right. It's kind of like getting your chores done before you're allowed to do anything fun. Like I
Mm.
cannot cook if I got dishes in the sink. I gotta do those dishes first.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
you can't fall in love if there's this curse looming overhead. You got to nip that curse in the bud so then you
Right.
can, start on a clean slate.
Yeah. Yeah. So now, what Justina was asking before, I put some screenshots up just so we can talk a little bit about the different tools that we do see in the scene. Because the Jillian getting knocked into that cabinet is so fast. That's barely in it. And this conversation at the table is probably less than 20 seconds, when we do see Aunt Franny and Aunt Jet doing this DIY stuff. So some of the tools that we see in the film and some of their basics. So in the foreground of the scene where Sally is doing her spell, we see Aunt Jet, and she has this wooden contraption in front of her that looks like a giant wheel. At first, I thought it was a giant spinning wheel, but it's not. It looks like kind of like a wheel you would use to steer a ship. And it's not necessarily even a wheel. It's a hexagon shape that it's not connected. It just has these four posts. This tool is called an antique, well, theirs is an antique wool winder, known today as a nitty knotty. And I love that name. Isn't that cute?
Yeah, it's adorable.
And a nitty knotty is the simplest and most basic type of yarn winder. And it's made up of a center post and two attached cross pieces, one at each end of the centerpiece. The yarn is then wound around the nitty knotty by hand. Additionally, there's another type of winder that resembles the inside of an umbrella and its interlocking pieces, as well as a more compact hand crank winder that resembles like a little barrel shape. These items can be seen in the room as well. The one that looks like an umbrella is right above where Aunt Franny is sitting. It almost looks like they've attached it to the loom. But that one can contract and expand depending on the length of skein you want.
Okay.
And a skein is like a length of yarn that's wound up, basically.
I have a question about what Jet is actually doing. So she's got a candle in front of her. Is she blowing that candle to light it up like Sally does, or is she blowing it out?
She's blowing it up like Sally does. Isn't
Blowing
that
it up
cute?
like Sally does.
Yeah.
Okay. So she's blowing it up like Sally does. Do you think this is kind of to like incorporate some kind of intention with what she's doing with this nitty naughty?
Oh, totally. I can see
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
And can we speculate what her intentions might be? Do you
Oh
have
man.
any thoughts about that?
Oh, I have a feeling she would be trying to maybe support her girls a little more
Yeah.
in their pursuit of their knowledge. Like she's just so proud watching Sally. Very good, Sally, you
Yeah.
know?
It's almost as if like her blowing up this candle and then Sally, I don't remember if Sally does it first before Jet does it in this scene, but it's almost as if like Sally's just, you know how kids, they're just so like moldable, like everything that they do is just through imitation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's just like she sees her Aunt Jet doing this and she's just trying to be like her Aunt Jet. So it's just something that comes natural because she looks up and adores her aunt so much.
Totally.
And I don't know, Jillian is just kind of clueless to
Poor girl.
she's in her own world, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Speaking of which, perfect segue. We also see Franny. She's in the background working on her loom, and she's using a handheld little wooden device. She has it in her hand called a fly shuttle. It's used to transport a length of fiber called the weft from one end of the loom through the warp to the other end, and then they'll use this piece of wood called a beater or a beater board to push all the lengths of yarn tighter together to make that really tight weave. So I'm guessing that the weft is the left and right and the warp is the up and down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So stangs, staffs, and distaffs. Again,
Stang.
these terms are hysterical. So the importance of distaffs in witchcraft and magical practices is a topic that has gained recognition in recent years. While Robert Cochrane emphasized the significance of the distaff in witchcraft, more recent archaeological research on the staffs of sorcery, often found in Viking Age graves, has shed light on the connection between these staffs and distaffs from the same time period. The so-called, quote, staffs of sorcery are often made of iron, making them too heavy for practical work use, and they share similarities with distaffs. While these distaffs and staffs may not resemble traditional stangs, stangs have historically served as portable tools for witches. It's possible that distaffs' functions have been incorporated into the stang's multifaceted nature. It is no wonder that the activity itself, as well as the implements for spinning, such as distaff, spindle, wool, whirl?
Whirl?
Is that it's supposed to be whirl or is it supposed to be wool?
I think it's whirl. Spindle, whirl. God, that's hard to say.
Yeah. Such as distaff, spindle, spindle whorl, and spinning wheel, and also the material for spinning, i.e., unspun wool, flax, hemp, etc., as well as the result of the process, thread and yarn, acquired many symbolic connotations, which are associated with the very basic foundations of human existence, such as birth, death, and fate.
The spindle whorl, WHORL, is the weighted piece of wood at is what's called a drop spindle. It's just basically it's like a dowel with a weight at the bottom. Yeah.
Got it. Did it say what a stang was? Did it define that?
I think a stang was more like a wand.
Okay.
I'm gonna guess.
Okay. So in the book on chords, Robert Cochrane wrote that, quote, the so-called sacred object held in such reverence by some witches was in fact a weaver's distaff and could easily be mistaken for a phallic symbol. The weaver's distaff, bound with reeds or straw, appears frequently in rural carvings and elsewhere. It again has reference to the craft and supreme deity. It would appear that the witches were not in the least influenced by Freudian concepts, end quote. If we continue to trace that thread further back, especially in Northern Europe, the place where much of modern witchcraft is rooted, if we go as far back as the Viking Age, we find mentions of a type of magic called Seiðr, which is spelled Seidr. So Seiðr was in all likelihood a spun form of magic. Seiðr is a magic that can not only bind, but can also attract things. In fact, roughly half of the accounts involving Seiðr in the primary sources are related to attracting things, be those things fish, people, or resources, and we'll talk more about this a little later on. So this concept of using thread-based magic to attract things is one that was retained in later folklore too, as was the tradition of linking spinning and weaving implements with prophecy and magic in general. For example, a witch was believed to be able to steal a neighbor's milk by milking a length of rope. And the spindle, And the spindle remained the symbol of the witch in Germany until quite later on.
Dang!
Yeah, that's crazy. So we're gonna dig a little deeper into the Viking Age Seiðr. So you want to take us through tracing back the threads from witches to the Viking Age Seiðr?
I sure do. I love how I wrote dipper instead of deeper. So let's change that. Yes. So the etymological link between the Old High German and Old English words for snare, cord, or halter, and the concept of the Seiðr in Norse mythology provide a strong foundation for understanding the magical and symbolic significance of spinning and weaving in various Indo-European cultures. In many Indo-European descendant cultures, the act of spinning has been associated with the concept of fate or destiny. Linguistically, the connection is reflected in older versions of Indo-European languages, including Old English, where the verb for to be often carried connotations of turning or spinning. This linguistic tie suggests that what is currently happening is what is being turned or spun, emphasize the idea of weaving one's fate.
You know what I just thought of, which is really fucking weird?
What?
It's weird how a spider just invited itself to this discussion. Literally, what does a spider do?
Oh, I have a huge thing on spiders later on. What?
There you go.
Am I a fucking witch or what?
It's all connected.
It's all connected. Girl, thank you. That made my day. I'm glad I didn't kill him.
Now you can't kill it. It's here for a reason.
It's the studio spider.
The studio spider. He's here for, you know how news anchors have that fact checker? It's like, it's like the spider is there just fact check.
That is wild. I didn't even think of that. Weird.
Very strange.
Oh my god.
Strange things are happening. It's also Halloween, so
I know, it's perfect timing. Good timing there, guy.
yeah, man.
Numerous Indo-European cultures also feature deities and noumena associated with spinning, responsible for determining the destinies of individuals, and we're going to be going into depth on this shortly. The connection between spinning and death is also worth considering. Death is often depicted as ensnaring and drawing the deceased into the underworld using cords, ropes, or snares. These cords or ropes are end products of spinning, underscoring the importance in the journey of the realm to the dead. Spinning not only influences the concept of fate, but also holds significant implications for life and death, making it a rich source of symbolism and magic in these traditions. So the following three little things I'm going to read are from different poems. One is Icelandic, one is, I believe, Greek, and one is Latin. So this one comes from a solar poem, was what it was called. It says, "The ropes of hell came swiftly. They swung at my sides. I wanted to break them, but they were tough. Light it is to fare when free." And this next one is from Horace Ode. The odes are a collection of 4 books in a Latin lyrical poem by Horace. "You who are richer than that unrifled treasure of the Arabs and the wealth of India, you may fill all the Tyrrhenia and the Apluan Sea with the foundations for your villa. But if grim necessity drives her
Adamantine?
like adamantium, like Wolverine, her adamantine nails in the highest heavens, you'll not free your soul from fear, nor your head from the snares of death." And then lastly, this comes from a collection of Latin poetry. "What awaits goodness, or chaste loyalty, or worship paid to heaven? The dark snare of death encompassed around the wretched woman. The sister's ruthless threads are tightened, and there abides but the last portion of the exhausted span."
I have another connection. What is used to catch a rabbit?
A snare.
Fucking snare.
Fucking
And
snare. Rabbits.
Rabbits. Fuck the fucking rabbits.
Oh, psychopomp.
Yeah, guys, go check out our rabbits episode, season 1.
So right here was where we were gonna put a little more about not magic, but guys, I think this again is gonna be a series. We're gonna do not magic at some point, sewing circles, sewing, embroidery, crocheting, and then I was thinking the art of fishing net making and sailors and nooses, because that in itself tied to death again.
Yeah.
Tied to death. Guys,
Yeah. And if we're gonna talk about nooses, obviously that's a big trope. Well, not a trope. That's a big symbol in the witches that were accused back in the 1600s in New England Puritan era. There's a lot. I think there definitely is a lot here. Definitely, we can't do all this in one episode.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to tell us about some supernatural beings?
All right, so we're going to connect the threads right now, and this is from researchgate.net. In the realm of European folklore, there's a recurring theme that immediately captures one's attention: the association between spinning and supernatural entities. It's fascinating to note that spinning tools such as spindles, yarn, threads, and even balls of wool are consistently linked with otherworldly beings, particularly those of the female persuasion. This connection, although occasionally attributed to male entities, is predominantly a domain of female mythical creatures. This prevalence is easily comprehensible given that, historically, spinning was the quintessential occupation for women. So stay tuned for next week's episode where we explore this even further with a discussion on the term spinster, where it comes from, what it means to us now, and how this trope connects to practical magic and other pop culture. A survey of these beliefs from various times and diverse regions reveals remarkable similarities in how widely separate cultures relate spinning to different supernatural beings. In a Serbian folk poem, for instance, we find an invitation for a female fairy to spin. And this poem reads, "O cherry tree, little cherry tree, raise your branches, beneath you fairies, dance a wonderful round dance." Spindles are a recurring attribute of various Eastern Slavic supernatural beings, such as, geez, how do you say these words?
Piatnica?
Patnitsa, Kikimora. I've heard Kikimora. I think I've heard of that one before. Kikimora and even the male Domovoi. We talked about the Domovoi before. Yeah, so check out our episode 6, Brew Magic and Lore, for even more Domovoi action. According to 19th century Northern Russian folklore, Mara, or Kikimora, or Shishimora, occupies the nighttime hours spinning yarn on the stove. She's also known to engage in activities like weaving, knitting, crocheting, and sewing. Sometimes she pounds hemp or yarn and can be seen with a spindle or a spinning wheel, or even assuming the shape of a wheel.
We used to call my great-grandmother, her name was Maria, but she would go by Mara, like Bakamara. I didn't know it was like associated with maybe like an older woman, maybe? Because it sounds like the Kikimora and the Shishimora are both elderly women. Maybe
Yeah,
it's like old Maria?
Did she spin? Did she do a lot of spinning and stuff?
She would have had to. Yeah, because I think in my grandpa's book, he talked about, the women's spinning and the processing is a 24-hour thing. He said you would go to the bed to the sound of the spinning wheel clicking.
Really?
I'm like, that's fucking beautiful.
So that is kind of like the Kikimora, like occupying the nighttime hours doing that spinning.
Yeah.
Maybe that's where that legend came from, because people would just go to bed with that sound in their ears, and like maybe people's dreams just manifested this deity or spirit or some kind of legend like that.
Good point.
That is really cool. So Rusalka shares a similar affinity with Mara and Kikimora in folklore, often working with thread, yarn, and unspun wool. She enjoys spinning and knotting yarn, much like the Ukrainian Nichka, a supernatural female being who, particularly on Friday nights, spins. Why Friday night? That's like, a wild Friday night just spinning a wheel.
With the Nichka.
Spins where women leave their sheaves of hemp. Another local variant called Kamoka also shares this inclination for spinning. Even Baba Yaga, a character from fairy tales and not typically a subject of folk belief, has ties to spinning. Her hut is in perpetual rotation on a spindle-like axis, and it rests on a bird's foot, sometimes featuring a spindle as its heel. An excerpt from a fairy tale reads, quote, "A hut stands on a chicken's leg on a spindle heel. It spins in circles and you can't see the door." So in addition to the physical association with spinning tools, Baba Yaga is often depicted with implements used for cloth fabrication, which are linked to divination through the, quote, "spinning of fate," a practice observed by her and her sisters. In traditional German beliefs, an invisible little goblin called the Lutin was believed to set spinning wheels in motion when people neglected to twist the drive band. In Scotland, people used to remove the drive bands from spinning wheels at night to prevent supernatural beings from using them. In France, how do you say that word? Santonge? Santonge?
Santonge? Yeah. Santonge.
Santonge in France, the 19th century belief among a peasant population suggested that fades and skilled spinners. The word fade is the one by which fairies are called in central France. Oh, okay.
Little fade.
Yeah, so the little fades walked around at night with spindles, fortune-telling the future. Other supernatural beings, such as fays or lutins, would seek yarn at night or work with spinning wheels. In a French legend, a fairy hides within the yarn, as if imprisoned within it. The province of Berry, notably recalled by George Sand, spoke of a female spirit, a dwarf, or a malevolent fairy. Another malevolence. Whining and nothing yarn. So Italian legends associate balls of yarn with witches and other supernatural beings that possess negative and demonic abilities. Portuguese legend describes enchanted maidens called Morta Encantada who endlessly weave and participate in spinning gatherings. In Finnish tradition, the Pleiades were portrayed as highly skilled in spinning and weaving. Lithuanian legends from the 20th century depict witches and female supernatural beings known as the Lame engaging in weaving. Beyond the supernatural beings that spin or are associated with spinning, numerous beliefs in Europe revolve around entities like Petra, Holda, and Hole, or Hole, and others who, during certain periods of the year, watch over spinning. They ensure that no spinning takes place on forbidden days and punish those who violate spinning taboos. These beings are often portrayed in the act of spinning and are equipped with flax and spinning tools. With such a wealth of folklore and records of folk beliefs relating supernatural beings to spinning found across Europe, there's undoubtedly a profound connection. It cannot merely be a coincidence that the link between these beings and spinning is consistently present over such vast geographic regions. However, the question remains, what is the significance of this connection and why does it recur so frequently? The answer likely resides in the symbolic rather than economic role of spinning. In the following section, I will argue that spinning is a characteristic activity of supernatural beings who, by definition, dwell in the liminal space in between the two worlds. There's liminal spaces again, yeah. A Lithuanian legend from 1961 tells of a woman who found a piece of cloth on the ground shaped like a band, which she wound up like a ball of thread. This is, I guess, the quote from that legend. She, a woman, bent down and started rolling one up when she heard a Lome's voice say, "Cut and sew from this cloth, but don't look at the end. Then it will last you as long as you live." So she took the roll of the cloth home and cut and sewed from it for many years. One day she became bored and unrolled the cloth all the way to see what was inside. She didn't find anything interesting, just the end, and so ended the Lome's cloth. So I guess she just died.
That's so sad.
She just died because it's kind of like a Pandora's box kind of. It's like literally tempting the fates. Like,
totally, yeah.
You don't want to do that. It's like Kristina in the recording studio. Don't push that button.
Don't touch it.
Don't touch those buttons. It's like, kind of like resisting temptation. Maybe it's like its own Garden of Eden kind of story. Like, don't eat that apple. Yeah. Don't do it. And then upon doing it, you in turn either fuck the rest of humanity for all of eternity, or fuck yourself and then just kill yourself and die.
You remember that book from childhood, the like scary stories to read in the dark or whatever?
Oh yeah, they made a movie about that recently.
Is this the same thing? The story of the girl with the green ribbon around her neck?
I don't remember that one.
Girl, so there's this little girl, green ribbon around her neck her whole life. She falls in love, she gets married, they have a beautiful life, and then she's on her deathbed, she passes away, and after she dies, her husband unties the green ribbon and her head falls off. It's so scary.
Dude, those books were kind of dark, but like we used to eat that shit up.
Oh my god. Right? I love that story. That would be an easy ass Halloween costume.
The girl with the head falling off?
Yeah, the green ribbon, girl with the green ribbon.
Oh yeah, just tie a green ribbon around your neck. Don't untie it. No. That's so creepy.
I know.
But yeah, basically this story is like tempting the fates. Like, don't do it or you're gonna fuck yourself. And she did. That's what she did. I guess that's where the Lome's cloth, that name came from, that legend. So in all three legends, Portuguese, Slovenian, and Lithuanian, finding the end of a thread or yarn or cloth by breaking it removes the eternal winding of the yarn. This severs the connection with the other world, and riches are prevented from entering this world. A ball of thread in fairy tales has a similar symbolic value, making a link between the worlds. In a Russian fairy tale about Prince Ivan, is that your dad's name?
That's my dad's name.
That's my friend Kristen's husband's name.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. And White Polyanin, a small ball of thread guides Ivan through a dark forest, the traditional threshold to the other world. A rope made from strips of bull's hide also serves a similar function. This rope is so long that one end is in this world and the other is in the other world. A Croatian belief from 1851 recounts how a fairy, or vila, teaches women how to cure and help people. Women must eat yarn to remember the fairy's teachings. As long as the fairy speaks, they must spin together, connecting themselves by a thread from the yarn they hold in their hands.
Yeah, I couldn't find anything on this. I was looking.
Okay.
I couldn't find this
Yeah.
anywhere.
Interesting. And all this folklore material consistently points to the role of spinning and spun thread in folk beliefs, legends, and fairy tales as a means of providing a link between the world of the living and the world of the dead. Given that supernatural beings inhabit the liminal space between these two realms, the frequent connection between them and spinning should not surprise us, but rather appear as a natural and significant aspect of these stories.
Isn't this wild?
This is nuts. Like, I would have never even thought that spinning and weaving would be so prevalent in old myths and legends, definitely, and relating to witches and witchcraft and magic.
Mm-hmm.
This
Yeah.
is so fascinating.
Alrighty. Let's talk a little bit about this next section is thread and the soul of the restless dead. The
Ooh.
association between thread, yarn, and spinning with the souls of the restless dead is a natural extension of the concept that thread acts as a bridge between the worlds of the living and the dead. While not a prevalent belief, it is found in folklore. This connection primarily pertains to the restless dead, individuals who, according to traditional folk beliefs, are unable to pass into the other world and are trapped in the liminal space between the two realms. In these cases, thread, yarn, and spinning tools are linked to the souls of the dead who linger in these intermediate spaces. Scholarly interpretation suggests that supernatural beings may have evolved from the souls of various categories of the deceased. For instance, in the French text L'Evangile des Connuits, the distaff Gospels from the 15th century, remnants of the returning spirits of the dead are said to come back at night in search of the thread or to work on spinning wheels. Spinning beliefs are found in narratives from the Sora Valley in Slovenia at the beginning of the 21st century. Here it is believed that the souls of the dead engage in spinning or manifesting in the form of a ball of thread or wool. In one case, strange noises on a roof are attributed to the rolling of bloody balls of wool spun by restless sinners. In another narrative, a man who has passed away returned in the form of a ball of threaded...
Oh no, he returned in the form of a ball of thread to frighten his grandson.
Thank you. The connection between the restless souls and yarn, balls of wool, and spinning emphasize their in-between status, resulting from various factors such as untimely or violent deaths. Meeting their untimely death. Suicide, sins, or incorrectly performed or incomplete funeral rituals. These individuals are unable to proceed to the other world after death, thus remaining in the liminal space between the worlds. This association further underscores the notation of liminality, which we've already observed in folk beliefs about the supernatural beings.
Can I read this next part? Because I actually
please.
I actually just thought of something
Yeah, of course.
that just like kind of gave me chills a little bit.
I hope you did. Go ahead.
All right, so thread as a bridge to the other world. So thread, particularly spun yarn and thread, even hair, is seen as a symbolic bridge between the world of the living and that of the dead. This connection, already observed in folklore about supernatural beings and restless souls, is explicitly represented in various folk beliefs. In Thompson's motif index, motifs like Moffats, like bridge of thread on way to the world of the dead and rope bridge to the other world are identified. An old English song sung at wakes likens the path that souls must travel to the other world to a bridge as narrow as a thread. In French folk beliefs related to the feast of Saint Cordier, a celestial rope allegedly twisted by Saint Cordier on a specific day creates a link between the two worlds where people and gods can ascend and descend on this rope. In the accounts of Naganasan shaman, the path to the other world is depicted as a narrow road or thread. Similar notions about a rope leading to the sky are found in the rituals of Ostiak, Yurak, Samoyed shamans, and Yakuts shamans. Hair, in some cases, serves the same function as thread in bridging the gap between the worlds. In Greek and South Slavic folklore, hair is more frequently associated with this role than thread. In Serbian folklore, for example, a long hair is laid over the pit of hell, and the souls of the deceased must travel across it. Righteous individuals make it across, while sinners fall into hell. This idea of hair as a bridge is interwoven with beliefs about foot bridges and beams in Serbian, Montenegrin, and Bulgarian folklore. In these traditions, it's believed... Oh my god, yeah! In these traditions, it's believed that the archangel measures the deeds of the deceased and allows righteous souls to cross a wide bridge while presenting sinners with a bridge as thin as hair leading to hell. The connection between hair and thread isn't surprising, as hair was historically used as fiber material for spinning and weaving, as evidenced by archaeological findings. In folklore, hair can also be linked to spinning, representing a material for spinning and weaving. A Lithuanian legend mentions spinning goddesses who spin flax, and when the flax runs out, they begin to spin the woman's hair. A Lithuanian variant of the fairy tale, The Household of the Witch, features a house with various human body parts, but the witch explains that these are everyday objects, such as a human arm acting as a gate bolt and human hair representing flax fibers for spinning. In summary, the idea of thread or hair serving as a bridge between worlds, whether depicted as a narrow road or path, has deep roots in folklore and represents a significant symbol of the transition between life and the afterlife. And this is what gives me the chills reading about this now. I had no idea about thread and its association with, I guess, a bridge to the other world. My grandfather, my dad's father, he passed away 2018. He was a tailor. He, his entire life, he made a living off of designer men's suits. He would sew men's suits.
That's so Italian.
I know. When he passed away, I put a spool of thread in his pocket when he was laying in his coffin.
Oh.
So that link, I wasn't even conscious of this whole legend or story. But like that was kind of like a send-off, kind of like sending him off to the other world, that bridge to the other world by thread.
I love that so much.
And my brother, who is also a songwriter, in his band Lunar Code, he actually wrote a song about my grandfather's death called or not so much his death, it's more about kind of like his life story. But it's called Needle and Thread.
Oh my god.
And it's kind of
cute.
like it literally weaves his life story into this like beautiful like song, and it's just like it's fascinating now making the connection with this story or like these legends. It's just so crazy how literally like it's all connected. That's just
so
blows my mind.
Oh my gosh. And when recording this, the veil is the thinnest.
The veil, it's Halloween.
Grandpa wanted to be talked about today.
That is.
Oh my god, amazing! Because he was a tailor.
He's Taylor. We called him Nonno.
No. This one's for Nonno.
Yeah. Vincenzo.
Oh my gosh, that's really sweet. Did you tell me that you weren't initially going to put that in his pocket? Like you didn't want to go to the... I thought there was something like you weren't going to go up to the casket right away, but you did. You did.
I don't
eventually.
remember.
I don't know.
But maybe you're thinking of my Aunt Fifi's penny story.
Yes. Okay, that might be it. Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, a gray spool of thread I put in my grandfather's pocket.
Aww.
Casket.
That's so sweet.
Yeah, and then my brother wrote a song, Needle and Thread. So
such a witch.
Yeah, right. Our whole family's witches.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah, they are.
They just don't fucking know it.
So anyway. This next section is called Thread and Children in Folklore. In traditional folklore, spinning, thread, and yarn play a symbolic role in connecting the world of the living and the world of the dead, as we talked about, as well as the process of childbirth. Spinning and thread are associated with supernatural beings and restless souls who dwell in the liminal space between these two worlds. However, these symbols also represent the opposite journey, where new souls enter the world from the realm of the dead. In some Slavic folklore, particularly in the Polisai region on the border between Belarus and the Ukraine, children are believed to arrive in the world from the underworld via a thread. When the children ask their parents about their origins, parents often respond with a motif like, God lowered you from the heavens on a golden thread. This belief reflects the idea that children are lowered from the Christian otherworld through a thread representing their descent into the mortal world. This concept of children arriving in this world through a thread is further supported by the practice of Serbian and Turkish women, who tie threads onto their newborns and make knots, believing that these knots must be undone before they can give birth to another child. This practice can be seen as symbolically binding the thread, allowing or preventing the arrival of more children into this world. In the next context of spinning, the symbolism of childbirth is connected to the opposition between spun thread and unspun wool. Old Norse sagas, for instance, illustrate the concept by referring to a wool basket as a symbolic womb, with unspun wool representing a person not yet born or fully made. This relates the act of making a textile to the process of making a person, symbolizing a birth process. Furthermore, this association between spinning and body tissue suggests that to spin and weave is to create body tissue in the primitive symbolism of Western civilization. In Vedic mythology, human life continuity is seen as a drawn-out thread or lengthening strip of fabric. In Slavic folklore, mothers are allegorically represented as distaffs, and riddles present the distaff as an image of a mother spinning the thread of life, while the yarn on the spindle is considered a child growing in her womb. Oh God. I wrote this out phonetically. I think this is like the Gospels, but it says the Protevangelium of James, an apocryphal text of the mid-2nd century, portrays Mary as spinning wool when the angels announce the birth of Jesus. This story has influenced Christian iconography, particularly in Byzantine art. While Mary is often depicted with a spindle, spinning wheel, or basket of yarn during the Annunciation. The concept of spinning unspun wool and the birth of children is deeply rooted in ancient mythological patterns. It illustrates the link between the world of the living and the world of the dead, where the creation of life is intertwined with spinning and weaving, connecting life and death, the tomb and the womb, and the outer world and this world.
Oh my God, the tomb and the womb.
Yeah.
You
From
know,
womb to tomb, baby.
From tomb to the womb.
Yeah.
One thing that I'm surprised that this whole excerpt did not mention was the umbilical cord.
Right.
Yeah,
Good-
because
good
like
call.
that brings the child into this world, and that in
Tethering
and of
it.
itself is like the thread of life, right? Or like the
Yes.
cord of or rope of life. Like,
Oh, I love your mind today. Yeah, good connection.
all right.
The ultimate thread.
Yeah, literally. So we're going to talk about spun thread and, quote, turning human in folklore. So in folklore, spinning thread is not only associated with the creation of a child's body, but also represents the integration of a child into society and culture. This symbolism is rooted in the notion that spinning transforms raw materials like flax or unspun wool, representing nature, into yarn, which is then used for making clothing, a significant aspect of human culture. The turning motion of the spindle is loaded with symbolism, representing a shift from wild to domestic space. Ethno-linguistic inquiries in the Western Balkan Slavic area have revealed that the downward motion of wool from the distaff to the spindle, as it's spun into yarn, symbolizes the transition from wild to domestic space.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. This notion is similar to the movement of wolves from the forest to people's homes. In some cultures, women were prohibited from spinning in the week leading up to the holiday of Saint Sava, as it was believed that spinning might bring wolves from the woods to their surroundings.
Wow.
Yeah. This symbolic movement from the other world to this world through spinning is applied in folk magic practice, such as the technique of, quote, turning human. This procedure is essential when a Zmeche or dragon child is born, believed to have a special role as a mediator between the community and the other world. The initiation rites for these children involve women weaving a special shirt for them in one night, using hemp spun in complete silence. This act symbolizes the assimilation of the child into human society, marking their transition from being connected to nature to becoming a part of human culture. So in essence, is that kind of like their own kind of baptismal rite?
I love that. Yeah, it sounds like it, huh?
Right? So spinning also plays a vital role in fairy tales, where it can transform bewitched creatures into humans or domesticate ferocious beasts. The act of spinning, weaving, and sewing appears to have the power to turn animals into men and represent the taming of nature's wild aspects. Furthermore, the act of spinning is associated with the concept of fate. Just as a child's body is conceived as being spun, their fate is also believed to be woven or spun. Many Indo-European traditions believe that the fates or similar female beings spun the threads of human life. In Greek, Roman, Latvian, Lithuanian, Macedonian, and Bulgarian folklore, these beings are linked to spinning and fate. The spinning of the thread of life, the length of which represents a person's destiny, was a widespread belief in these cultures. The fates were also involved in shaping a child's destiny at birth. This belief has left traces in idiomatic expressions and folklore throughout these regions, indicating the profound connection between spinning and the weaving of human fate. Yeah, they
That's
do say that like your fate is predetermined, right? So like people can try to escape death or like avoid their ultimate fate, but like ultimately it's gonna catch up with you.
I feel like the ultimate faith is always death, but I think you're able to deviate and make that strand, split a little bit sometimes.
Right. But if we do that, are we inherently changing the course of, I guess, the rest of the world? Because if that death was supposed to happen,
Butterfly effect.
it could alternate history,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
I fucking love a good time travel, like alternate dimension
Yeah,
theory.
yep, I do too. Yeah.
Send me spiraling for days.
That book I was reading, the Hades and Persephone book, they deal with the fates a lot.
Mhm.
And I think at one point Persephone's friend is in a coma, they got hit by a car or something, and Persephone wants Hades to talk to the fates about saving her. And
Mhm.
she doesn't comprehend that, I guess, in this world, he can go to them if somebody is kind of in that liminal space, like if like a child gets a cancer diagnosis but is still alive, or but they
Mm.
have to want to come back to the world of living. And this friend who was in the
Right.
car accident didn't want to come back, but Persephone skirts around Hades and asks Apollo for help, and Apollo heals her, and this friend is just absolutely distraught. She's like, I did not want to come back. I did not want to come back. And like, trigger warning, she ultimately like takes her life in the end. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so sad. But like, I guess there is a way to change your fate, or
Alter
when
it
you're gonna
somehow.
die, but you can't already be dead. Like in Hercules, like Meg is in the underworld and he goes down to get her. I know there's another couple Greek stories. Oh, I know, we'll get back on topic. Have you seen that Robin Williams movie where he's like in the painting
Oh,
What Dreams May Come?
that movie is so sad.
It's so sad, but it's so beautiful. That is
Very
an
beautiful.
interpretation of one of the Greek myths.
Okay.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, that movie is amazing. The scenery alone and like the special effects and like
Mhm.
those landscapes and like those dreamscapes that he's
Oh,
placed
I
in.
think it's Orpheus. I think it's
Mm,
Orpheus.
okay.
So
Yeah.
cool, so cool.
Yeah. Very sad though.
Very sad though.
Very, very sad.
Speaking of death,
Yeah. Yeah.
yes, thread and death in folklore. So this is probably going to reiterate a little bit of what we already talked about, but they had it numbered out, so I'm just going to go for it.
Okay.
So the relationship between spinning, thread, and death in folklore is multifaceted and steeped in symbolism. Spinning and thread are not only connected to the creation of a child's body, but also to the concept of fate and ultimately the process of death. So this says, number 1, birth and fate. In traditional folklore beliefs, a newborn child's body is metaphorically represented as being spun from unspun wool, symbolizing the child's prior existence in the outer world, a sort of wool basket or womb. Spinning represents the creation of a link between the other world, represented by the unspun wool, and this world, the spun thread. This spinning continues throughout a person's life. The length of the thread spun around a person's head at birth is believed to be determined by spinning fates. Number 2, connection to language. Many idioms in various languages connect the end of a thread to the end of life, signifying death. For example, in Slovenian, there are expressions like to cut or break the thread of life, and his or her life is hanging by a thread. I mean, we have that in America too.
Mhm.
Both referring to the idea that a life can be threatened or ended like a thread being cut.
Mhm.
Number 3, metaphors of death. Greek expressions like his spindle is wound full signifies death as a process where the thread of life has reached its end. This concept can also be seen in Russian healing incantations that liken a stream of blood from a wound to a thread, symbolizing that death is a form of unwinding the thread of life from a body's spindle. Number 4, unwinding of the thread. In the folklore of northern Moldova, Romania, people used to carry coffins to the cemetery while unwinding a white woolen cloth. This act symbolizes the unwinding of life's thread and the journey of the deceased to the other world. Number 5, cyclical beliefs. Traditional European beliefs often center around the idea that life is connected to death in an eternal cycle. The unwinding of the thread of life upon death may symbolize a return to raw, unprocessed materials, unspun wool from which a new thread or body can be spun upon each subsequent birth. Number 6, snake symbolism. The snake!
There it is.
In Belarusian incantations, a snake lies on top of unspun wool near the root of a tree. The snake is associated with the pagan Slavic gods, among others, of the otherworld, Veles or Volos. The symbolism suggests a connection between death and the returning to the otherworld. Did we do snakes yet?
No, I don't think we did. I think we just talked about them briefly in the tattoo episode.
Okay.
Right?
Lastly, number 7, customs with unspun wool. In many southeastern European regions, people place balls of unspun wool on graves. You were ahead of your time putting that bobbin in his jacket pocket.
Uh-huh.
These balls of wool are believed to symbolically represent the return of the soul of the deceased to the other world. They are referred to as a place where the soul, quote, hides, rests, is protected, sleeps, or makes a nest. So in conclusion, the connection between spinning, thread, and death in folklore reflects deep-seated beliefs about the life-death life cycle, the connection between this world and the other world, and symbolically represents life's journeys. And I wanted to include, I wanted to put more about dorsal versus widdershins as well. I didn't, so I thought we could just touch on it like super quick.
Okay.
Because I'm sure that has everything, if you are making fiber art or you are weaving or doing whatever, from step 1, from spinning your own wool, if you want to banish, you're going to go counterclockwise, and that's called widdershins. And then if you go clockwise, it's called dorsal, and that is when you want to pull in, cast, invoke. I really kept wanting to just add shit in there, and I added that while you were talking earlier. So
Okay. And it's kind of like the same deal like when you open and close a circle, right?
Exactly. Yeah. All right, I think it's time for a little break. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I agree. Time for a break.
You ready? All right. Guys, when we come back, you're going to get so much deeper into the realm of magic and spinning and wool and fiber art. So stick around. We'll be right back.
You said that like an Irish lady.
Perfect.
Hey, little witches! Justina's here. If you've been listening to our podcast for a while, you would know how much we love using the Practical Magic Inner Witch Oracle deck by Grounded by the Moon.
And now we want to share the magic of Grounded by the Moon with you, our listeners. Joseph Benitez Egerton, the creator behind Grounded by the Moon, would like to offer this very special 10% off discount to all who wish to experience the magic of his Practical Magic themed tarot and oracle decks.
But that's not all. He also creates other divination tools like tarot workbooks, deck bags and altar cloths, pendulum kits, oil blends, cleansing sprays, smoke wands, teas, and ritual kits.
And let's not forget about his custom handcrafted all-natural soy candles, where every candle is hand-poured and personally infused and charged under the light of the moon. They even come with a crystal.
And did we mention all of the ingredients in the candles are ethically sourced?
All of Joseph's offerings are just so magical. So go visit groundedbythemoon.com and use the coupon code Magnolia Magic for 10% off your entire order at checkout.
That's MAGNOLIA MAGIC. So get your discount today. Hey, we're the Stinas, and you're listening to Magnolia Street Podcast. All right, everybody, we're back. We're going to do a card pull. Here we go. I'm going to shuffle. Tell me when to stop.
Okay. Stop.
Ooh.
Oh.
Have we pulled any? Yeah, we pulled like maybe one other crystal card. This
Maybe.
is the clear quartz card.
Okay.
The keyword on this card is divine connection.
Oh, seriously?
Uh-huh.
Amazing.
All right. So divine connection, also spirituality is the additional keyword. So this says divine spirit is flowing all around us at all times. Right now, the universe is reaching out, asking for your connection and energy. Utilize this magical power to assist you in making decisions and enhancing your daily life. Clear quartz is known as the universal crystal. Empowering the user and any crystal it is used with, quartz is a go-to for any witch. This card is telling you to use some clear quartz in your magical practice.
Oh my god, I can hear that.
Coraline's scratching my scream.
I can hear that.
Hey! This card is telling you to use some clear quartz in your magical practice and daily life. Utilize the magical powers of this crystal to enhance your connections with the divine. And the mantra on this card is, I am divinely connected to the energy that is available to me. Do you hear all the noises going on over here? What the fuck is going on?
It's the veil is thin, man.
I can't. Cut all that bullshit out.
No way.
So yeah, divine connection, I guess, talking about the veil, right? And the thinning of the veil and your connection with the spiritual realm, that kind of like in between worlds, the spiritual realm, just
Absolutely.
your connection with anything that's like on the spiritual plane that is not on the physical plane of existence.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that connects somehow.
Oh, I absolutely think it connects because we were talking about the interwoven connection between all these deities and what they share, and the Spider Woman, and like the grandmother and the ancestors. And there's so much ancestor veneration attached to the spinning wheel, the spider, you know, these folk tales that we're telling.
Yeah.
I think it works. That's a great card.
And this also says utilize this magical power to assist you in making decisions. And what we were talking about before with the choices, and every choice you make is like another thread extending
Yes.
from your personal choose your own adventure game, like your life, right?
Right. And also spinning these stories, you know, the folk tales, they always have some kind of assistance.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have
Right.
to do it on your own.
That is right. Yeah, I'm glad we never pulled the clear quartz one before. So
I don't think so. I think we got rose quartz.
yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
Thank you. And guys, stay tuned because we're going to be actually talking with Joseph of Grounded by the Moon, who designed this whole oracle deck that we used all of season 1 and hope to continue using it in season 2. Maybe we'll even pull out his tarot deck at some point. Right?
Oh boy. Okay. All right, let's get to the big event here. I think the most well-known mythology, I guess, when it comes to spinning and weaving. Go for
All
it.
right. So we're going to talk about the fates.
All right.
And this is from worldhistory.org. And also there's some additional stuff in here from Wikipedia. The fates, commonly known as the Moirai in Greek mythology, are a trio of sister goddesses responsible for assigning destinies to mortals at their birth, determining their lifespan, and overseeing the timing of their death. The golden thread they spin signifies each individual's fate, with its breaking mark at the end of a human's life. In European polytheism, the fates are often depicted as a trio of goddesses, with their roles expressed through textile metaphors such as spinning fibers into yarn or weaving threads on a loom. These divine figures, also known as Clotho, Lachesis, and Atropos, are typically depicted as beautiful maidens, symbolizing the gravity of their responsibility for the lives of mortals. Poets, however, tend to portray the fates as unyielding and unattractive, reflecting the weight of their role within both the mythological and human worlds. According to ancient beliefs, as the daughters of the night, the fates ruled the dark destinies of humankind. A golden thread represented each person's life and destiny that the fates spun on their spinning wheel. Once a person's life ended, the sisters cut the thread. Clotho spun the thread, Lachesis, the allotter of time, measured it, and Atropos cut it when it was time for someone to die. Atropos, she's like a ruthless bitch. She's She's the one that ends it all.
And we touched on her in what episode?
What
Do you
did
remember?
No, I don't.
Atropa Belladonna.
Oh, dude,
So she got her name.
Atropa. Okay, so literally she is Nightshade.
Yeah, she's
So she's out for it. She's out for death.
yeah.
All right.
She is death. Yeah.
He's going to end it all. So the gods themselves dared not to interfere with the fates once they had decided a person's fate, meaning that they were unable to save their mortal children's lives or the lives of their favorite mortals. So depending on the source, the fates are either the daughters of Nyx, the night, or Zeus and Themis, law and justice. Hesiod, circa 700 BCE, lists the fates as Nyx's fatherless daughter in his Theogony. So this says, she bore the destinies and ruthless fates, goddesses who track down the sins of men and gods and never cease from awful rage until they give the sinner punishment. As daughters of Nyx, the fates were sisters of the dark forces of the world, including blame, sad distress, nemesis, and strife. Later, in Theogony, the fates were mentioned as the daughters of Zeus and Themis. And Shining Themis was second wife. She bore the Horae, order, blooming, peace, and justice, who attend the works, if men, and then the fates, to whom wise Zeus has paid the greatest honor, Clotho, Atropos, Lachesis, who give men all good and bad. It is believed that the Fates, being a daughter of Zeus and Themis, was written after Hesiod's time, possibly added by an unknown writer to provide a translation to Hesiod's catalog of women. Although Zeus claimed to be their father and called himself the leader of the Fates, some ancient writers did not take his claim seriously, including Herodotus, circa 484 to 425, and Plato, circa 428, 427.
So a little bit more about Clotho, the spinner. And this is from thecollection.com and a little bit from Wiki. So in Greek mythology, Clotho, known as the spinner, held the responsibility of weaving the threads of each human's life while they were still in the womb. Through textile metaphors prevalent in Greek myth, the threads symbolize the path of the individual, encompassing their future choices, actions, and the resulting consequences. One of her notable roles was emphasized during pregnancy and the birth of human beings, as she commenced the spinning of the thread during this period. The concept of fate and choice was not absolute. Rather, it depended on conditional decisions, with the fates considering all choices and outcomes when weaving the thread. That's like the idea of like every choice you've ever made, there's another timeline of you living that other choice. Have you heard that?
It's like a choose your own adventure game.
Yeah.
Right? Literally.
Homer's Odyssey reflects the influence of Clotho's decision on human fate, stating he must look to meet whatever events his own fate, and the stern Clotho, also spelled with a K, twisted into his thread of destiny when he entered the world, and his mother bore him. Clotho, the youngest of the three fates, or Moirae, was a significant figure in Greek mythology, involved in crucial decisions such as determining the time of a person's birth, and even intervening to save or end the lives of deities and mortals. Despite being worshipped as a goddess, Clotho's representation of fate remained central to her role, with a thread symbolizing human life and her decisions shaping the destinies of all people in society. Alongside her sisters and Hermes, Clotho was credited with creating the alphabet for their people, solidifying her profound influence in Greek mythology.
Yeah, I like the idea of literally like our choices as mortals with our own free will. We have the ability to make those choices, but are those choices predetermined for us?
Right.
Right?
Door
And
number
those-
one, door number two.
Right. And those choices are inherently those threads.
Mm-hmm.
Those threads go spanning off from all different little directions. Every single choice you make in life, even if it's down to like, do I want pepperoni on my pizza? Do I want mushrooms on my pizza? Like something as stupid as that can like have a big effect on whatever that choice is. It could take you in any direction. Right?
Yeah, like it's like, all right, that'll be 15 minutes from now. All right, that'll be 20 minutes from now. And like the 20-minute, you want that pepperoni. It takes a little longer. Maybe you leave and you come across like a big crash that happened, you know, and you could have been in that crash if you had left 15 minutes early picking that mushroom pizza.
Right.
I don't know.
But like it's crazy, like every single little choice, it doesn't matter how minuscule the choice may seem, it has some kind of effect on what's going to happen within or as a result of that choice.
Just like me being like, I want practical magic music. Who can I talk to? Now look where we are.
I know. It took you a split second to make that decision to text me, right?
Mhm.
And if you had not texted me in that moment, would we be where we are now?
I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
Crazy to think about. All right, let's talk about the ivory shoulder.
Oh.
As one of the three fates, Clotho participated in creating the alphabet with Hermes, forced the goddess Aphrodite into making love with other gods, weakened the monster Typhon with poison fruit, persuaded Zeus to kill Asclepius with a bolt of lightning, and aided the deities in their war with the giants by killing Agrius and Thoas with bronze clubs. So Clotho also used her life-giving powers in the myth of Tantalus, the man who had slain and prepared his son Pelops for a dinner party with the deities. When the deities... What?
Ugh. He prepared his son? Like killed him? And like, is that what that means? The man who had slain and prepared his son.
I guess so.
For a dinner party. Like Meatloaf in Rocky Horror.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very Hannibal.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if he served him up with a can of fava beans and a nice Chianti.
Chianti.
Yeah. When the deities had discovered what Tantalus had done, they put the remaining of pieces of Pelops in a cauldron. Ugh.
What?
Clotho brought him back to life with the exception of a shoulder that had been eaten by Demeter and therefore was replaced by a chunk of ivory. Clotho was worshipped in many places in Greece as one of the three fates and is sometimes associated with the Keres and Erinyes, which are other deity groups in Greek mythology. So I wonder if he's like depicted with no shoulder or he's got
That's
a
a
shoulder.
good question. Pelops. Pelops. I'm gonna look him up real quick.
It's like why is some of the goddesses are depicted with no arms, right? Is it because of their stories or is it just because the sculptors who were creating them just didn't feel like sculpting arms?
I think aren't they just damaged?
I don't know. Ariadne,
Hmm.
the Greek goddess of fertility, is similar to Clotho in that she carries a ball of thread, much like Clotho's spindle.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
A little bit about Clotho in the visual arts. This is from onlinelibrary.wiley.com. The first representation of Clotho in the arts dates back to ancient Greece. Clotho, Lychesis, and Atropos were often depicted as old women who were bitter and showed no mercy. Usually, they are pictured with their known attributes. Clotho with a thread of life on a spindle, Lychesis with a tape measure or eyeglass, and Atropos with a pair of scissors. I know in the Hercules thing, they all share one eye. I don't know where that came from. Do you remember that?
No.
They all share the one eye and they like pop it out of their little noodles and they put it in their neck, their sister's head.
What? No, I don't remember that.
The Three Fates also featured in one of Francisco de Goya's famous black paintings. During his late period, Goya painted 14 intense and haunting paintings on the walls of his house. Could you say that Spanish name?
The Quinta del Sordo.
Oh, House of the Deaf Man. Was he deaf?
Francisco de Goya? I guess so. I don't know.
It says where he lived in near total isolation, disillusioned by the political developments in Spain at the time. The paintings show three female figures floating in the air, thought to be the Three Fates. Clotho is not shown with a spindle, but with a doll, or maybe a newborn child. Lychesis is depicted looking through a lens, measuring the length of a thread of life. Atropos is shown carrying a pair of scissors ready to cut the thread. A fourth figure is pictured with his hand bound behind him as if being captive. It is speculated that the figure might represent the Prometheus or an unknown man waiting for the Three Fates to decide his destiny.
Oh, shit.
Oh, shit. In recent times, Clotho, Lychesis, and Atropos are portrayed by German artist Anne Carton Altwain in three sculptures. The sculptures were initially erected at the entrance to the University Hospital in Jena, in Thuringia, Germany. It's spelled Jena, Jena, not sure. The artist has chosen the subject of the Three Fates from Greek mythology because she felt the campus of the University Hospital Jena should provide creative inspiration for patrons strolling in the recreation areas of the hospital. In the sculpture, Clotho is not shown with her usual attributes, but as a pregnant woman, as the artist sought to portray the goddess in a more positive light, perhaps subverting her reputation as fate.
But isn't that a little ironic, or just like having the thread, the depiction of fate just hanging out outside of a hospital where people are hanging on by a thread?
Damn! Oh, what?
Right? Like, isn't that a little like
tongue-in-cheek? Like a little like,
yeah, like who's gonna make it? Who's not? Like, what the fuck, man? That's so fucked up.
Wow, that is messed up.
Right?
Oh, dang. The change of their like attributes and stuff that they hold, especially in this one, her being a pregnant being, and she is supposed to be like the youngest sister. This definitely reminds me of like Hecate or like the triple goddess, or Maiden Mother Crone,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
All of us remain keen to know our own destinies, so it's not surprising that the Three Fates have been subject for artists from around the world from ancient times until today. Justina and I were mentioning that she has got two sisters. Can you tell us about the other sisters?
The other Fate sisters. The second Fate, Lychesis, was a second of the Morai, or Fates, and her role was to measure the thread of a human's life. Her name translates as the allotter, which fits her role as the one who allots a portion of immortal life to each soul. Lychesis would determine how long a human would live, and hence how many trials they would face in their lifetime. Within the thread lay the fate of each soul. And this is a quote from Plato, Republic 617 CE. This is the word of Lychesis, the maiden daughter of Anake, necessity, souls that live for a day. Now is the beginning of another cycle, of mortal generation, where birth is the beacon of death. The third fate, Atropos, whose name translates as the, quote, unturnable, or she who cannot be turned.
The unturnable?
The unturnable. Oh, yeah.
Turntable.
Yo, DJ Atropos in the house.
Tropos.
In his house. Yeah, so if you want to learn a little bit more about Tropos, I guess revisit our Belladonna episode. So her name refers to her unshakable position as the most stubborn of the fates. Atropos was the one to cut the thread of fate, and at the point of the cut, the mortal life would end. Thus, Atropos resembles the death of a human. After the cut, a soul would then be sent to the underworld for judgment, after which it would be sent to Elysium, the fields of punishment, or the fields of Asphodel?
Asphodel?
Why am I thinking of Elysium? Was the name Elysian in any of those practical magic books?
Elysian? Not that I can remember.
It wasn't? Alright, I'm thinking of the Elysian Fields, which is also Elysium, the final resting place of the souls of the heroic and the virtuous in Greek mythology and religion.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh, also, Elysian Fields was the site of the very first organized baseball game in Hoboken, New Jersey.
What the fuck? Hell yeah. All right.
What the fuck? Exactly. Maybe that's where what I'm thinking of. I was like, I know that name, Elysian Fields. Why does it sound familiar? I guess that probably is why I know it. It's funny, like the things that like slip into your subconscious over the course of your life. You know, like where did that come from? But like you somehow know what it is. This quote is this says, "Comes the blind fury with that abhorred shears and slits the thin spun life," by John Milton. Lycida, and I don't know what that is.
I think Milton also wrote Paradise Lost.
Okay. So Atropos' role was vital. She chose how each person would die. She decided on the circumstances of their death, whether that was nobly or ignobly. That was up to her. The fates were often depicted as old women and sometimes as young goddesses. So kind of like what you were saying, like the triple goddess, the maiden, mother, crone. It depends on, I guess, what stage of life you're at. I'm wondering if Atropos was like the oldest.
I think she's the oldest. Yeah, that would make sense.
That would make sense because, you know, the older you are, the closer you are to death, right?
It says she was also the most stubborn of the fates, which I think is funny.
She's old and senile. She was just done with people's shit. She's like, you know what she does? She cuts the thread when those people who just keep repeating the same toxic patterns in their life. She's like, all right, they're not getting the point. Clip.
You're done.
Come back in the next life. Try again later. Like,
you're wasting my thread
of the whole operation. So it majorly depends on the artistic preference. Many representations show Atropos as an old woman, as she chose when people would die, and Clotho as a young woman, as she was often present when women gave birth. So yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Interesting.
Their appearance may not have been absolute, but one consistency in their depiction is with the loom or the yarn. The thread is always a staple feature to identify the fates. They are often creating tapestries depicting the life of a human.
Dude, I didn't even throw in because I thought this could be in the weaving one, but like the tapestry work, like holy shit. So let's dive into some other deities associated with spinning and weaving. And we might also touch back on these in weaving, but that could be down the line. And this is from goddessgift.com. So let's start in Greece. Firstly is Athena, goddess of art, architecture, crafts, spinning, horses, intellect, oxen, purity, reason, science, war, weaving, and wisdom. Also associated with Minerva, Roman goddess of spinning, weaving, cities, industry, war, wisdom, and the arts. She competed in a weaving contest with the mortal Arachne. Athena was so pissed at the cocky and proud, yet technically sound, Arachne and her insulting subject matter portrayed in the tapestry that she turned her into a spider, forever to weave and forever to have her weavings destroyed by humans. Like other goddesses and deities we'll be mentioning, the spider woman / weaver woman related to spiders across the globe in myths from Egypt to Greece to Japan to Native American tribes. We're going to go deep on this shortly. Anak, goddess of fate, also known as necessitate.
Necessitate.
I think you're just going to let me go until I get tired.
I'm also eating chocolate, so.
Oh, okay. I don't have your video up. So while she is not spinning, goddess Plato had a vision of her spinning the universe. Can you imagine it? The sun, moon, planets were her spindle whorls. The sirens sang throughout the webs of time, and fate she wove while all the souls moved through the strands to and from death and rebirth. Philomena, the daughter of Pandion, the legendary king of Athens. Her sister's husband, Terras, found Philomena so beautiful that he raped her, and trigger.
Wow.
After cut her tongue out so that she cannot tell about her violation.
Ew,
Her-
fuck that guy.
Yeah, fuck that guy. Terius, fuck you. Her loom became her voice, and the story is told in her design so that her sister, Procne, may understand, and so women may take their revenge. Lena, the goddess of flax and weaving. Should we save some of these for our weaving episode?
I mean, we can read them now and then dive
Okay.
deeper into that in that episode.
Okay. So it's hard to find much on Lena as a Greek myth other than the statement that she is the goddess of weaving. There is a Lena tie into Germanic and Saxon myths of Holda, which we touched on a little bit ago, and we'll have more on later. Lena's ordeal references that she is flax in the myth and is seen as the female equal to John Barleycorn. So flax is what linen is made out of, if you didn't know that. Penelope, lastly, from Greece, a human and faithful wife of Odysseus. Penelope has a high lineage that melds human and the divine. And is she perhaps secretly Odysseus's own weaving goddess nymph? Like the two weaving enchantresses in the Odysseus, Circe, and Calypso. She was a weaver, always weaving her design for a shroud by day and unraveling it at night to keep her suitors from claiming her during the long years while Odysseus was away.
That kind of reminds me of like what a spider kind of does. Like we see the spider at night, but we don't see it during the day.
Oh, I see mine during the day all the fucking
Really?
time. They fuck off at night. Yeah.
You ever seen those orb weavers? They're fucking huge.
I had like this thing this past summer. I wanted to get brave enough to pick one up because they're not going to bite you. They're way more scared of you. Like if they are cornered, then I read that they will try to get you. Like if they have absolutely no way out. And I guess it's like a bee sting. Their little bite is like a bee sting.
Yeah.
But I had a couple in my greenhouse and I liked having them there because they took care of all the little buggies that came in.
That's true.
And Josh and I used to like pick up like the dead little roaches or, ants, and we would blow them into their webs.
Blow them into the webs.
And then the orb spiders would come down and wrap them up really fast. It was so fun to watch.
Their webs are gnarly as hell.
They're beautiful. Yeah.
They are beautiful. Do you see that new trend that's going on like social media?
Mm-mm.
So basically, you first of all, you got to check if the spider web is vacant.
Oh, are you talking about like the art thing?
Yeah, you like spray hairspray on it, and then you put like a piece of black paper up against it, and then
I love
you
that.
capture that web, and then you can frame it. It's like
Yes.
spider web art.
Yes, I have seen that. It's so pretty. I can see you
Very,
doing that.
very pretty. But make sure there's no spiders in that web before you fuck up their house, right?
No insurance.
No insurance. No web insurance. So we're going to talk about the Egyptian goddesses now. So Isis, the teacher of spinning, along with reading and agriculture. She is known for so much more. This little detail about spinning is swamped by the amount of her involvement and ability. Unlike the other Egyptian goddesses, Isis spent time among her people, teaching women how to grind corn and make bread, spin flax, and weave cloth. She also taught them how to tame men enough to live with them, an art form on which many of us would welcome a refresher course. Isis taught her people the skills of reading and agriculture and was worshipped as the goddess of medicine and wisdom. Then there's the goddess Neith, goddess of crafts, spinning, hunting, war, and wisdom, also called Net or Neat, N-E-I-T. Also viewed at times as androgynous with no clear gender. Very involved in a number of major stories, Nit is identifiable by her emblems. Most often, it is the loom's shuttle, with its two recognizable hooks at each end, upon her head, and or a shield with crossed bows.
Cool.
And we'll link that. I think there's a picture of that. And a cool factoid, according to E.A. Wallace Budge, the gods of the Egyptians, the root of the word for weaving and also for being, are the same, which is N-N-T.
Cool.
And Tayet, goddess of spinning and weaving, and the patron of weavers, involved in mummification. There are ramblings that her name derives from the word shroud.
So some Native American deities, of course, have to do with the spider woman, spider grandmother, etc. So the spider woman, also known as spider old woman or grandmother spider woman, is represented as a powerful teacher or helper in some tribal stories and a trickster with intelligence and skill. She sang the world into existence. To many Native Americans, it is considered bad luck to kill a spider. And on the back of that, spider grandmother to the Hopi. Spider grandmother is the special benefactor of the Hopi tribe. In the Hopi creation myth, Spider Grandmother created humans from clay with the assistance of the Sotknang and Tawa, and was also responsible for leading them to the fourth world, the present Earth. Also, according to mythology, she was responsible for the stars in the sky. She took a web she had spun, laced it with dew, so sweet, threw it into the sky, and the dew became the stars. Her web represents the matrix of our realities and how we are all connected.
There it is.
Oh, I love that so much. This also has ties to dream catchers.
Love that.
And to the Navajo, they also have a spider woman. Spider woman is one of the most important deities of traditional Navajo religion. Unlike the Hopi's spider grandmother, the Navajo spider woman is not considered the creator of humans, but she is their constant helper and benefactor. Spider woman is the advisor of the heroic twins, Monster Slayer and Born from Water, taught the people the art of weaving and agriculture, and appears in many legends and folk tales to, quote, save the day, protect the innocent, and restore humanity to the world. So we have a lot more deities we're going to talk about, but I think we should take a sidebar here. And Justina, please tell us the significance of the spider as a spiritual animal a little more in depth.
I still think it's wild how a spider just appeared
I know.
today.
Weird.
So crazy.
And it was not a little bitty. It was
No.
like a little wolf. It was like a little wolf spider.
Yeah. Oof. Okay. I'm not a spider fan by any means, but this learning about it, maybe it'll change all of us spider haters our minds. Maybe it'll change our minds today.
Okay.
So spiders are among the most patient and long-suffering of all animal spirit guides. They carefully weave a web and then wait for their prey to come to them. Each strand of a spider's web connects to another, creating a whole safe space in which you can feed your spirit. Spider knows, however, that anything worth doing is worth doing correctly. You cannot rush enlightenment. Reawakening your soul's knowledge of the great mysteries can truly become a lifetime pilgrimage. Spider, as a spiritual guide and mentor, encourages you to try looking at a problem from different angles. Follow one strand. Where does it take you? Try another. Where are you then? Stay flexible and don't be afraid to test out a new path. This is particularly true of relationships and other close ties. Where do you want to build your web and your network so that it's strong? A spider's web represents our interconnection with divine perfection within the universe. What's more, spider's meaning reminds us to reflect on how we have the resources to, quote, catch what we need and attain our dreams.
Dude, okay, real quick. This is so touching every part of Magnolia Street right now. Are you, am I right?
For sure.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we definitely always make it a point that every person that has come across our paths, like we're just pulling people into our web, right?
And just following those little you said almost exactly that recently. Every little thing led to this next little thing, and it's all divine timing, and it's all connected.
It's that thread that connects it all. So often we humans try to hold on to what we create, but Spider reminds us we can be free to create, destroy, and recreate. This reinforces Spider's meaning in connection to the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. You may also be reminded by Spider to have faith in your gifts. You may not need to hold on to what's comfortable. Sometimes we get used to things that aren't really in our best interests. Let go and refine what you create. Like an artist or writer who needs to revise again and again, perhaps Spider is teaching you to not fall in love with your first painting or your first draft. Instead, continue to build and innovate, manifesting perfection through the larger process. Invoke Spider Power Animal when you want to regain the reins of control over your fate. Destiny awaits, and Spider offers creative solutions for achieving your goals. Weave an energetic web that supports your soul. With Spider radiating from within, you capture the magic of the moment. Both creative but also potentially aggressive, Spider reminds us to balance our resourceful, inventive sides but also to protect that which we value. When you are working with the energy of Spider medicine within, you may be challenged to adjust your strategies, design a different web. When Spider comes into your dreams, you may have received an important message from the goddess. Typically, such dreams happen when you've gotten distracted from your true calling. Alternatively, spider dreams could be your ancestors, offering a stronger connection to your hereditary powers. If you don't like the spiders in your dreams, this usually occurs when you have a female figure in your life with whom you're having a lot of struggles. The choice here is twofold: stay and work it out, or walk away. Take a step back and get insights into the bigger picture. When you see a spider crawling all over you in a dream, this spirit comes to protect you. Take care. What or who threatens your well-being? Should spiderweb show up in your dream, you feel entangled in something not of your making. Be patient and think creatively. There is a way through lying on the edge of your awareness. A spiderweb in front of someone else in a dream has one of two meanings, and perhaps both. The person is very clingy, jealous, and obsessive. It's not a great idea to spend too much time in their web, or the individual purposefully laid a trap for you. So remain perceptive to avoid it. And that is from whatismyspiritanimal.com.
Awesome. All right, we're going to jump back into the deities real quick, and we're going to get to the Balkans.
Sal?
Sal
S-A-U-L-E, Sal?
is the solstice goddess of the sun, spinning sunlight and weaving. The Baltic, Latvia, and Lithuania connection between the sun and spinning is as old as spindles of the sunstone, amber, which is considered a magical substance, that have been uncovered in burial mounds. Some of these spindles have signs of use, not merely symbolic. The family of Sal, Bewe, and Sol are all intertwined in sun lore in spinning, harvest time, and the motions of the sun and moon. And this says, here is a daily blessing. Sol, my ember weeping goddess, creating light like thread, as Sol's mat, my mother son, daily blessing your thankful world with light. There we go. Can I take the Germanic so you can take the crazy Japanese names?
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah,
Again, Kristina thinks I speak Japanese for something.
Fluent Japanese, fluent Swedish.
Fluid. All right.
So Holda, we talked about a little earlier. Teutonic goddess, Falholda, of spinners and weavers, who teaches, encourages, inspires, and rewards the hard workers. Bringer of winter and referenced as the White Lady of Winter and protector of women. She also gathers the trapped souls of children that died before they were named. Also mentioned in the tale Froholda by the Brothers Grimm, accredited with inspiring, albeit maligned and evil versions, the hag in Snow White. Favorite plants being apple and flax, making a spindle and wheel tools of evil, and even Mother Goose. Geese are sacred to Holda, and some say she is the source of that storybook character. Her story trails into the Norse stories of Frigg, Bertha, and paganic reference to Christmas traditions. Other names she is known by in Germanic and Scandinavian folklore are Holde, Holda, and Holdra.
All right. Are you ready for some Japanese?
Yes.
I am so fluent. So this first goddess is Amaterasu. Amaterasu is the goddess who spins and weaves sunbeams, is the supreme deity and divine ancestor of the Japanese imperial family, and as the sun goddess. She was responsible for illuminating the world and for ensuring the fertility of the rice fields. Amaterasu was also an accomplished weaver, with many attendants who joined her in the weaving of stunning satins, silks, and brocades, for which Japan is rightfully famous. The legend of Amaterasu leads us to the sacred mirror, jewel, and sword, which collectively became the three imperial regalia of Japan. Next is Wakahiru, a weaving goddess that is Amaterasu's younger sister, and in some tales, Wakahiru is another name used to represent Amaterasu. She is a specialist in needlecraft and weaving, known as the Dawn Goddess, and cherishes the handmade craft and the tools of the craft. Kamahuta Hime, this goddess represents love, arts, and relationships, and weaves the stars together. The weaving of tales have magical powers that are Utsuhata, which means woven perfectly and never need to be cut or sewn. Good thing, because the stories of soldiers is you cannot cut the fate weavings. Next we have Slavic, which the goddess Mokosh is the goddess of spinning, protector of women, their health, and their children. She was a protector of sheep and fleece and was tied to water and rain. The close reference to her name to water, Mokar, means
Mokra.
Mokra means wet, led to rain being called Mokra's milk. Her role was also similar in the Sudye, the Fates, who give and takes life, spinner of the thread of life, giver of the water of life. There was in 16th century a connection to the Russian fairy tale which Baba Yaga, also known as Mokisha and Mokush, She later evolved into Saint Petka Paraskeva Piatnica, a goddess of spinning, water fertility, and the health with marriage.
You're so good at that name. You're so good at all the names.
Do you want to take the Celtic?
Sure. Hebetrot, goddess of healing and spinning. Spinning is both pagan lingo for spell casting and for the turning of the wheel of the year. She may have been a goddess of magic or seasonal mother/creator. Habitat is best known for healing powers of her skills with weaving fiber. All who wore the clothing she wove would never fall ill. And Brigid, Celtic saint and goddess of poetry, healing, and smithcraft. She is also a patron of other womanly arts, midwifery, dyeing, weaving, brewing, and guarding of children and farm animals, and the patron of travelers, sailors, and fugitives. She also known to have two sisters and to be a triple goddess, and is a water deity.
Also, another quick connection about Brigid. She's associated with embark, right?
Mm-hmm.
And have you ever seen those bridges crosses? Like you literally weave those.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Those are a lot of fun to make. I made those a couple years ago.
Totally. Yep.
So the next we're going to talk about the Chinese. So the Qi Nu was the goddess of weaving, the daughter of the Jade Emperor. She spends all her time spinning beautiful silk robes and lacy garments for the heavenly host. She also makes the finest gossamer clouds, and her tapestry of the constellation is a work of art. Her story is based on the legend of the Weaver Girl and the Cowherd, and we will link that legend below. So there are many variables of this tale. Here is one, and this clarification explains the variables across regions in and around China, but all seem to be the genesis story of a Chinese, quote, Valentine's Day, for lack of a better example, also referenced by the names of Qi Ni, Qi He, Xinu, and I guess Xenu, but of a different spelling. Yeah.
So in the Norse realm, Frigg, she is the spinning goddess who knows the fate of all men, the wife of Odin and queen of Seiðr, the only one permitted to sit on the highest seat other than her husband Odin. As goddess of weaving, she is associated with weaving clouds and the threads of fate, known as the Weird in Nordic tradition. In Scandinavian, the constellation Orion's Belt is known as Frigg's distaff. Her name means beloved one. Other spellings of the goddess's name include Freya, Freya, Frigg, and Frigja. Bertha is next. Bertha is the goddess of spinning, would wander the countryside over midwinter and Yuletide, was able to tell if young children and servants were not being well behaved, did not finish their chores of spinning wool. Another common name is Perchta and Bahartra. Also the Norns, and the Norins. The Norse fates, again, they're three sisters, three spirits who spin the thread of life for all living beings, gods, men, giants, and dwarves. They are the three sisters who live near the well of Urd at the foot of Yggdrasil. The names of the sisters are Urd, Verdand, and Skuld. Urd is the oldest of the sisters and associated with the past. Verdand is associated with the present, and Skuld is associated with the possible future. More often in Norse mythology, they are associated with what was, what is, and what could come to be. Currently, however, most mythologists believe that Urd means fate, referring to those actions that have already taken place. Verdandi means becoming, referring to those actions in the process of taking place, and Skuld means necessity, referring to those necessary actions that drive the whole process.
So now we're going to get into Christian hagiography, and this is a biography of a saint or an ecclesiastical leader. So I guess like the saints in essence would be considered a deity of like the Christian faith, right?
Right. Yeah, there's patron saints for everything.
Exactly. So the Christian church has overrun so many regions, and this is why I guess we save these for last. Because there are so many patron saints in this collective myth and religion, we feel like we should include them even though they're not usually looked at as myths by some standard social groups. They're not all females or directly weavers or spinners, but they're all specialized in a maker's craft in textiles. So the first is Saint, how do you say this? Fiacre?
Yeah.
The patron, I'm going to just make them all Italian.
Okay.
Is the patron saint of hosiers. What's a hosier?
Like making hosiery? I don't know.
Okay. I'm just thinking of that guy that sings "Take Me to Church." Is it Hosier? So Severus of Avranches is the Roman Catholic patron saint of millinery, a creator of hats, right? Saint Brioche or brioche is the patron saint of purse makers. Severus of Avranches is the Roman Catholic patron saint of silk workers. Saint Catherine is the patron saint of spinners, and Saint Francis of Assisi is the patron saint of tapestry workers, which I never knew that. I always thought Assisi was associated with just like animals.
Animals. I know. A lot of these saints do double duty.
They're moonlighters.
They're back to back to back.
They're literally Renaissance men and women.
Yeah.
They do it all.
Working those part-time jobs.
Yeah. They're making them. They're making that money on the side.
Let's talk about some more spinning myths. So this story is called The Three Aunts. And I haven't heard this one. Also, it's amazing that it always comes in three, and I'm really surprised that like Practical Magic didn't have three aunts.
Yeah.
You know? Because that would have been maybe two on the nose. I don't know. There exists a Norwegian folktale known as the Three Aunts, which can be found in the complete and original Norwegian folktales of Asbjornsen and Mo. Although variations of the story abound, it's worth retelling. In this tale, a young girl secures a position as a maid at a palace and quickly becomes a favorite of the queen. The other maids, filled with jealousy, inform the queen that the girl boasts of her ability to spin a pound of flax in a single day. Impressed by this claim, the queen provides the girl with a room, a spinning wheel, and the required flax. Left alone to these tools, the girl realizes she doesn't possess the skill to spin. Also, I don't think I included it, but a Baba Yaga tale also, it has to do with spinning. I couldn't get it all, man. I just couldn't get it all.
There's a lot. There's a lot.
In her moment of this is very similar. Vasilisa, I think, is the young girl's name.
Okay.
In her moment of distress, an elderly woman appears and inquires about her troubles. The girl confides in her, and the woman kindly offers to do the spinning on her behalf. However, the girl must agree to name her as an aunt on her wedding day in return. Without hesitation, the girl accepts, and the elderly woman accomplishes the spinning. The queen is thrilled, but the other maids remain envious. They subsequently spread rumors that the girl also boasts about her weaving and sewing skills. Each time the girl is entrusted with a task, and once again an elderly woman arrives to complete the work. All the girl has to do is declare the old woman as her aunt. As the story unfolds, the queen eventually permits the girl to marry her son, the prince. On their wedding day, the three older women make their appearance. This is also like aren't there three witches in Sleeping Beauty? The three fairies?
Three fairies in Sleeping Beauty, and then there's also, I think, was it three witches in Macbeth?
Yeah, in Macbeth, yeah. Oh, Maleficent. What are those? Yeah, that's Sleeping Beauty.
Maleficent is Sleeping Beauty.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
No,
wait.
Aurora.
Hold on. Aurora is the princess's name, right?
Yeah.
And Maleficent is
Angelina Jolie, but that's what I'm thinking of because there's three fairies in that movie.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Let's get back on
I gotta
track.
watch that movie again.
Oh my god. The three old women make their appearance. To everyone's astonishment, they are perceived as unsightly. Nevertheless, the girl keeps her promise and claims them as her aunts. Frustrated, the prince finally demands an explanation of how the girl is so beautiful while these three women are perceived as hideous. Each of the elderly women shares that she was once young and lovely, but was altered by her prolonged dedication to spinning, weaving, and sewing. In response, the prince proclaims that the girl will never have to engage in these activities again as long as she lives. A similar narrative appears on both sides of the Anglo-Scottish border, where the three aunts amalgamate into a single character, the fairy known as Helbertot, who we just talked about. In this version, the girl is rescued from the burden of living up to expectations about her crafting prowess by Hebtrot's presence at her wedding.
So that character that you're talking about before, Vasilisa, I don't know if it's the same story that's in that book, Women Who Run with the Wolves, but there is a story about a character named Vasilisa.
It is. Yep.
It is the same thing? Okay. All right.
Yeah, and it's like her intuition is like the doll, basically. Yeah, that book is so good.
I love that book.
Yeah.
I used to have it on audiobook, and I would just like listen to it while I was driving because the stories were just like, I just got lost in them.
I should get it on audiobook. Yeah, that's awesome.
Great. Oh, it's on YouTube. You just ripped that shit off.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Pretty sure that's where I got it.
Okay.
It was anyway for a while. I don't know if it's still on there. All right, so we're going to talk about Rumpelstiltskin and Sleeping Beauty. And they're different stories, right? They're not associated with one another, but I guess they both include wool spinning or the loom in some shape or form. So the three aunts served as an inverted version of the more famous Rumpelstiltskin tale recounted by the Brothers Grimm. In this renowned tale, Rumpelstiltskin undertakes the spinning on behalf of a helpless heroine but demands her firstborn child as payment. The agreement can only be nullified by correctly guessing his name. Like, sidebar, why would you want somebody's child as payment?
I know. Oh, no,
Why
thank
would you
you.
want a child as payment?
Never give me your child as payment.
Never give me your child. So interestingly, an earlier version of the tale from 1810 presents a variation. In this rendition, the maiden possesses the ability to transform flax into gold but cannot convert it into yarn. This is a different name. Rumpelstiltskin, as he is known here, engineers a plan for the prince to select her as his bride. Once again, the price is her firstborn child. A vigilant maid in the queen's service overhears Rumpelstiltskin, and when the time comes to guess his name, the queen knows which name to provide.
Rumpelstiltskin.
Rumpelstiltskin.
So it sounds like spinning in folklore often requires assistance. They're never really doing it on their own. Even in Vasilisa's case, both of these tales hint at the recurrent theme concerning spinning in folklore, the necessity of assistance from a deity or supernatural being to complete insurmountable spinning task. In the Grimm version of Rumpelstiltskin, the woman outwits her helper and avoids paying the price. In contrast, the heroine in The Three Aunts upholds her promise and astutely manages to outmaneuver others. She is also absolved from any future obligation to perform the task she couldn't initially accomplish. Could you imagine the relief? The notion of trickery is intrinsically associated with spinning in these tales. Notably, it is not the actual spinner who engages in trickery, but rather the women connected to the act of spinning. Furthermore, spinning was already perceived as a traditional woman's craft. The tools used to hold unspun flax, known as the distaff and the distaff side, frequently referred to the female lineage. Oh, that's cool. Like, that's my distaff side, like all your moms.
Right, like patriarch or matriarch.
Yeah, the matriarchal line.
There you go.
In the medieval period, Eve was sometimes associated with spinning, despite the absence of such connections in the Book of Genesis. This perspective might explain why the spinning wheel is chosen as the 13th fairy symbol in Sleeping Beauty. The fairy who later becomes Maleficent in the Disney retelling redesignates the emblem of the female labor for the young princess, who will never have to work for a living. Alternatively, she may have chosen it due to its ubiquitous nature, making it difficult for Briar Rose to avoid its presence.
So it seems in Sleeping Beauty there were more than 3 fairies. This is saying the 13th fairy symbol?
I don't know. I've never read this
there must have
book.
been multiple fairies.
Mm-hmm.
Which, didn't somebody just recently mention the number 13? How they wanted us to
did.
talk about the number 13?
God damn.
In
Yeah.
our Discord, somebody wants us to talk about the, I guess, numerology in the movie and the books.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about the spinster and gender expectations. So here it's important to acknowledge the misunderstood connotations of the term spinster. At its core, the word denotes a woman who spins, like literally, I guess, right? While the dictionary defines it as applying to unmarried women, M. Strauss Knoll highlights that, quote, spinster and bachelor aren't equivalent terms. The former often carries a negative implication, while bachelors are frequently celebrated for their single status. And it's such a freaking double standard, right? Like, what the fuck? Why is an older, single, childless woman looked down upon and often associated in like pop culture and stuff as a witch, and a bachelor is like this cool fly guy everybody wants to hang around? He's like that Barney Stinson kind of dude. Like, you know, like, I just don't understand, like,
Because that's all we're good for is making babies.
Apparently.
It's the beginning of time.
What the
That's our
fuck,
only
man?
purpose, don't you know?
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we won't get too into this today, but tune in next week. We're actually going to deep dive on the whole spinster trope in our next episode. This disparity arises from societal expectations where women were anticipated to marry and subsequently exit the workforce. There was minimal incentive to offer promotions or salary increases to employed women. Yet the paradox here is that the ability to spin is evidently esteemed, even to the point where women acquire esteemed husbands because they are believed to be skillful spinners.
Like the girl marrying the prince. because they thought she was a good spinner.
So paradoxically, these women are then expected to cease their spinning activities after marriage, leaving the work to the elderly women or supernatural entities, those who truly perform the labor, while the young women are left fretting over their inability. Because I guess at that point they're expected to start churning out babies, and then I guess they get back to spinning once they retire or once the babies fly the coop. Once I guess they're empty nesters at that point, like I guess they have no other purpose, so I guess they go back to spinning.
Yeah, perform the labor while young women are left fretting over their inability, like their inability to do anything else besides mother.
Or housekeep.
Or housekeep. Yep.
Right.
Well, they have servants to help with that, I would think.
Yeah, I guess back in the day.
But even back in the day, they didn't raise their own goddamn kids. They had nannies and governesses.
Well, royalty anyway. I don't know if you're, commoner. There's that word again.
I used that over the weekend when my in-laws were here. I don't know what I was talking about, but I called it a commoner and they fucking loved it.
Your run-of-the-mill commoner. I don't know if your run-of-the-mill person had a nanny or had any kind of help around the house. So furthermore, an old German superstition advised men to avoid women found spinning and to seek alternative routes. This is likely due to the assumption that a woman spinning might be a, quote, spinster, aiming to ensnare them into marriage. This superstition overlooks the possibility that the woman may prefer an autonomous life as a creator of her own income. Why witches, I guess, or women were looked at as witches because those women were they wanted control over their own lives. And they were looked down upon because they wanted to be in control, right? Yeah. Woman in total control of herself, a witch.
That is exactly right. Yep, right there. Yeah, so why is spinning so prominent in folklore? Julius Ernest Hauscher offers insight explaining that spinning wheels often symbolize inner creative processes that transform a natural material into something entirely new. Again, that alchemy thing. In the case of Rumpelstiltskin, for instance, straw is miraculously transformed into pure gold. This symbolism might underscore a broader metaphor concerning the value of a person's labor being regarded as more significant than the person themselves, although this aspect extends beyond the scope of this point. Additionally, spinning in folklore ties back to the concept of the fates, again, who spin an individual's life into existence. The act of turning the wheel also mirrors the natural cycles of life. Hauscher further suggests that spinning signifies, quote, control of thinking. In this context, spinning serves as a meditative practice, requiring a certain degree of focus and skill, while demanding less overt imagination compared to weaving.
So let's talk about spinning the wheel and sealing your fate. Spinning and weaving in folk magic practice. Yes, so this is an island spinning song. Oh, these lyrics are these lyrics. All right, I'm gonna have to look this up at some point, but the lyrics are Hulamakadu, Huravahi, Huravahinda, Hulamakadu, Huravahi. Oh, Dicko, Deco, Dandy. when will someone come to me? Will he come by land or sea? Will he be my own lover be? Oh, tell me truly, wheel of fate, what is to say? 'Tis this year, next, or never a day. When will a wooer come my way? Oh, tell me truly, wheel. Be he dark or be he fair, shy or bold or debonair, ribbons bra will deck my hair to meet and greet my true love. And that is a traditional Scottish spinning song. So I guess they would sing that as they would spin these wheels.
Yeah, I wonder if the spinning wheel has that metronome, that probably kept their time.
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna have to look that up. I want to know what that melody is now. So spinning is a fascinating but often overlooked aspect of magical and folk practices. In many magical traditions, the significance of a tool lies not in its rarity or shininess, but in its personal connection and relevance to the practitioner. Like you said, like a magic wand, right? The use of spinning and associated skills in magical practices is an excellent example of how something seemingly ordinary can hold deep symbolic and practical importance. Practical magic.
Practical magic.
There you go. Modern discussions often revolve around agricultural cycles and regions where crops like wheat and corn are central. However, for those in pastoral or less fertile areas like Scotland, where livestock played a vital role, a focus on practices related to wool, such as spinning, knitting, dyeing, and knotting, can be more relevant. In traditional Scottish folk culture, songs were integral to work, and specific types of songs were associated with different tasks. Could you imagine making a different song for everything you do around the house? Like, this is my toilet cleaning song. And then you have like a mopping floor song.
Dude, don't you put music on when you clean? I always
I
have
do.
to have music on when I clean.
I do. Or I'm listening to a podcast like in my headphones.
Yeah. There's another technique. I think they did it in Outlander. I think it's a fiber cleaning technique. I think when it's already made, like the thing is already made. Do you know the scene I'm talking about?
Not off the top of my
Okay,
head.
that's okay. You were nodding your head, so I didn't want to cut you off, but they have to all these women are sitting around a table with I'm going to guess it's a tartan or whatever. And they use urine because of the ammonia in the urine, and they're like pushing it back and forth and banging it on the table, but they're singing. They're doing it in like a specific
I do remember
rhythm and motion.
Is that in like the very first season, like one of the first few episodes?
I think so.
Yeah,
It must be.
Uh-huh. I think I do remember that. I think that was like when Claire like first got thrown into like the past, and
Yes.
she was just like being exposed to like, I guess, the role of a woman back in that day.
Right.
Right.
I want to rewatch that show so
I
bad now
know,
after
me
watching this.
too. I'm not even caught up. I have to catch up, but I think I missed
not
like 2
either.
or 3 seasons of it. But I freaking love that show. So yeah, in traditional Scottish folk culture, songs were integral to work, and specific types of songs associated with different tasks. Spinning songs were employed during tasks like rowing, walking, milking, weaving, and spinning. These songs served as more than just entertainment. They helped workers maintain rhythm and intention, ensuring the work's success. Dude, everyone back then was a witch.
Witch.
Spinning was a crucial occupation in Scotland and other Gaelic cultures, with a thriving trade, especially in towns like Hawick. The art of spinning dates back to ancient times, with the distaff and spindle being the original tools before the advent of the spinning wheel and industrialization. Archaeological findings in Scotland include numerous whorls buried alongside individuals, like you were saying before, suggesting their profound importance in Gaelic culture. Some of these whorls feature Ogham blessings, like one discovered in Orkney in 1995. The inscription translates to blessings on the soul of El, and the words were meant to be read as the thread was spun, possibly serving as a reminder or a way to release intentions to the world, kind of like a mantra or like an incantation or a spell, right?
Totally. Yep.
The concept of the distaff side of the family, referring to the female lineage, also highlights the connection between women and spinning. The term spinster, which derives from spinner, is still used in a legal context for unmarried women, revealing the endurance influence of spinning on language and culture. Spinning holds a place in magical practice as well, with the tool's personal significance and symbology playing a central role. The spindle and whorl can be seen as a representation of male and female elements in some magical traditions. In Scottish folklore, figures like Habitrot and the Cailleach and the gyre carling are associated with spinning. Traditional customs dictated that spinning and roving had to be removed from the distaff on Hogmanay, New Year's Eve, to avoid these figures taking away the threads of a family's fate, which could result in an unfortunate year ahead. The act of spinning allows for intention to be woven into the thread, either through song or other means of maintaining focus. The choice of roving, fiber used for spinning, is significant. Natural substances like red or blue dyed sheep wool roving may be selected for healing and protection, kind of like the blue thread that Maria embroiders everything with.
Yep.
Spinning sunwise, or how do you say that word? Diogel?
Dorsal?
Clockwise ensures positive intention, while spinning widdershins counterclockwise with appropriately colored roving can be employed for baneful purposes, or like banishing, right? Additionally, spinning can induce a meditative state, allowing the practitioner's mind to relax and enter a trance-like state once they become adept at it. This makes it a valuable practice for mindfulness and magical work alike. And didn't you say before how like it kind of put you into that meditative kind of state when you would do that?
Absolutely. Yeah. There's a really cool article I found that I was going to include in this when we were going to talk about weaving. And it's called like the tapping into the flow or something like that. And it has to do with spinning and weaving and like just the meditative state somebody can get into.
Yeah, I'm sure that could be really like, you just like, once you get the motions under your belt and you know what you're doing, I'm sure just like going through the motions, you can just like tune out and just
Yeah.
go with it.
It's so weird. I think it's because I was taking these notes, but my in-laws were just asking about the spinning wheel in my house. So I've been talking about this all weekend. And I am excited about it because I had been doing the notes and I had pulled out my stuff. So I think for our little preview for this episode, I'll, overlay our voices, but I'll do the drop spindle, I'll do the supported one and the spinning wheel, and just you can see how it all works. Because
Awesome.
it's hard to understand how something so fluffy can be
Yeah.
twisted into something so strong,
Yeah, right. It's kind of like inchworm thread, or have you ever seen like an inchworm just like hanging off a tree by like a random thread?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
those threads are so strong.
Yeah. And yeah,
Crazy.
spider's thread too. It's like, what?
Yeah. And the fact that they make that with their own saliva is even more mind-boggling to me. Could
It's
you
just
imagine just spitting and like yarn just like flowing from your mouth? Like that's crazy to me.
Oh man.
Mother Nature.
Yeah.
So tell us how to spin, I guess, in a magical sense.
Sure. Yeah, this also comes from the Herbarium.com. They say, here's a short step-by-step process taken from the amazing and gifted spinning lecture given by Jennifer Laxman, PhD, based just outside of Glasgow, Scotland. She used a method not unlike their own, this person writing this article, but they prefer the word emotion or spirit blessing to intention. So, number 1, it says begin with purpose in mind. Make a habit of declaring your intention before you begin. Bring your mind to the present, act rather than multitasking and letting your mind wander while you set up tools. And they say, I would also say a short prayer to the spirits at this point and write the purpose of the whirl. Number 2, prepare your operative space and tools with care. Be mindful and intentional. There's nothing more distracting if you have to stop and go collect something you have forgotten. Number 3, use the structure of your belief and practice to set the space. Use preparation ritual and prayers of your belief to set this period of time aside for your spinning. Number 4, the mind can be fluid, and even the best of intention of focus can ebb and flow. When you notice yourself being distracted, be gentle with yourself. Do not cause a huge rift in your focus by getting angry with yourself. Rather, pause your spinning, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and refocus. They say this is why I sing a song or hum as you spin, but the choice is yours. It also lets the spirits know why you're doing what you're doing. And to piggyback off of that thought, something that they will tell you in therapy, is like thought stopping. And if you notice yourself getting anxious, like start singing or start naming things you're looking at. I will typically start singing when I notice myself getting agitated or just in my head and like ruminating.
I kind of use that kind of tactic for I'm certain I'm a clinical insomniac. Like I'm up all hours of the fucking night. And I don't know if it's just because like I'm sure technology and the invention of smartphones and being on the internet, I'm sure that doesn't help matters at all, because like you're constantly stimulated and you're constantly connected, and you have a sense of FOMO when you're not connected. So like when you're not doom scrolling all hours of the night, it's like you feel like you're missing out on something. And then also the cats like keep me up all night, hours of the night too.
Yeah.
But one technique that I found works sometimes, not all the time, but my mind also wanders at night when I am unplugged and when I am just trying to just like tune everything out and just go to sleep. I notice my mind does start to wander, and the mind wandering does create a sense of anxiety. So when I catch myself doing that, I'll like stop and like I'll count backwards from 100.
Mm-hmm.
And like that kind of repetitive, or I'll try to think in like cycles.
Yes.
So I'll think of the same thing over and over and over again. And that like repetitive motion in my mind is kind of what lulls me to sleep. But besides that, I also like to utilize like meditative stories and listening to a story, because when your mind is focused on a story and what's happening, like it's less like focusing on what is causing me anxiety, which is what keeps me awake. So the listening to a story, and that just like lulls me into a sleep. So I utilize like kind of like all of those things. But yeah, definitely that like that cycle of kind of like spinning, like just thinking in cycles, thinking in like, kind of a repetitive pattern is kind of like a lulling kind of safety comfort.
And that takes us back to probably like episode 1 or 2 or whatever, when I mentioned going through the Owens house, starting at the front gate, going through the house. And that's like my wind down. So go to our Patreon if you want to hear that meditation and go through the Owens house with us and just.
I totally forgot you did that. I'm going to download that. I'm going to start utilizing that.
I can send you the script if you want somebody else's voice to read it for you. Mine's not that great.
You have a lovely voice.
The other technique is like to picture the simplest thing and train your mind to become more detailed with that thing. So they suggested like an apple, and really try to hold that apple in your mind as long as you can. It's so hard.
Oh yeah.
It's so hard to just concentrate on that. So I started to concentrate on like petting Odin's head, because
Oh,
that I can like
I like that.
visualize forever, and it's so
That's
calming.
cute.
Yeah.
That is very calming. There's just something so calming about cats. Their
Yeah.
presence alone.
And what's a cat's favorite toy?
A ball of yarn,
A
right?
ball of yarn.
That's right. Yeah, that's why like when we were in Salem or like when we were in Boston, I would have trouble going to sleep because like I'm so used to my cats being right next to me, and when they're not, I'm like, I can't sleep.
I know. Yeah.
They're just so soothing to
I
me.
totally understand. So lastly, they say, number 5, when you have finished your work, you can make a formal closing. Acknowledge the work you have done and what its purpose was for, and that you have finished for that period of time. And then they say, leave a wee offering for the spirits.
Aw.
So now you have magically spun thread. What can you do with it? You can use any form of other knitting craft that you may know, or perhaps you knit it into a garment, crochet it into something, or use a lucette to create a cord to be worn. There are groups of weavers and spinners who make clothes for babies who have been taken away from the world too soon. Perhaps you could work in a group to combine your efforts. You can also use a single thread, minus the knitting or weaving, if you don't have the skill for this, to tie around body parts you wish to heal or add to the construction of protective charms, such as a rowan cross. We were talking about the rowan tree earlier.
Yeah, and was somebody talking about Rowan crosses? Was it Lori? Somebody was
Really?
talking. I don't remember if somebody. I feel like we were talking about Rowan crosses with somebody. Like
Wow.
somebody was saying, "I have Rowan trees on my property."
Oh, Laura. Then her
Laura?
dog.
Okay, I don't know if it was making crosses though. It might have been.
No,
Too.
probably.
I
I
think
think
it
for
was
her
for
soap.
soap.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, such as rowan crosses for your household, car, or person. It was very common to use blue thread in traditional Scottish folk magic to
There
tie
it is.
around. Yeah, there it is. To tie around a woman as they were giving birth to ease the labor, for instance. The uses are only as limited as your imagination, and you can rest assured that whatever you choose is based in very old and far-reaching folklore and craft practices.
Interesting. Did they? I don't remember where the blue thread came from in Maria's story. Did it come from Hannah or did it come from Rebecca? That whole.
I think from Rebecca.
It came from Rebecca? And
Mhm.
was Rebecca, did we know her origins? Was she Scottish? I have to go back and look at
I
that.
don't know.
Because that's so fascinating because the blue thread's traditional in Scottish folk magic. I'm wondering if Alice pulled right from Scottish folk magic and gave Rebecca that lineage.
Yeah. Do you think
Right.
Robbie was Scottish? Because they're in the
Maybe.
UK, right?
Yeah. But I mean, the UK, like, is a freaking melting pot. Like, everybody from, like, Ireland, I don't know, Scotland, Iceland, I'm sure they all flocked to different parts of the UK at
Mhm.
some point or another. So, this very well could be. I said it once, I'll say it again. She reminds me of Galis
Yeah.
from Outlander.
Yeah.
And Galis, I'm pretty sure she was either Irish or Scottish, right? She had
Yeah,
a
I think she's
accent.
Scottish.
Yeah, and with the red hair. So I'm definitely seeing a parallel there. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
There is probably so much more
Hmm.
that I did not see because I was just
Yeah.
boom, 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 boom. I was adding as much as I could.
Can you give us a little sampler of like what the other topics would be for those episodes of the series?
Yeah, this one is going to probably be like fiber. I'm not set on the name. Fiber spinning and
Okay.
witchcraft. We're also going to talk about weaving. We're going to talk about knot magic. We're going to talk about sewing. We could probably put embroidery in there also.
Yeah.
And under that, like what sewing circles were, what people think they were. Crocheting could be under knot magic. Fisherman net making and the history behind that, as well as like the symbolism of a noose and that specific type of knot.
Maria's hanging
Hanging
rope.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome.
What do you
Yeah.
think?
This will be an awesome series. I think it'll be a lot of fun. I mean, we learned a lot today just going down this rabbit hole. I had no idea like that thread or rope had anything to do with like the fates and connecting like mythology and the fates and like all of that folklore. It's just really
Yeah.
super fascinating. I had no idea any of that was connected.
And the connection with the spider, we haven't had that
That was
before.
crazy.
Yeah. Weird.
Did you find it again?
No, she got Arachne's gone.
I think she just
Oh
showed
no,
up.
she's right there.
Oh, okay. Arachne.
She's on the other side.
She is in all her glory.
Let me see.
All
All right, she's blending in.
she's there.
Yeah, she's
She
on my
wanted.
side.
She was like, I refuse to not be here while you're talking about
So
me.
cute. All right.
Now we have a little episode mascot.
Mhm.
All right, man. All right, guys. So that is all we have for you guys today. Just a reminder, you can check out all of the sources pertaining to today's episode via our hero page. The link is in our show notes. And thanks again to our patron and Palmiers for creating this app and keeping creators like us organized. If you guys do want to support the podcast on Patreon, you can support us for as little as $1 a month. That's our seedling tier, and that gets you access to our patron-only polls where you get to weigh in on what topics you would like us to talk about next. It also gets you our monthly calendar so you can see what topics we have coming up for the month, and it also gets you a welcome shout out on the show. Our $3 Lavender Bud tier gets you our show notes for each episode in an aesthetically pleasing PDF, our after hours posts, if there's any extra tidbits or behind the scenes info pertaining to any of our episodes, we'll post those along with a blog post or extra photos, and access to our specially curated Spotify playlists. We have created playlists for our WMSR episodes as well as Production Dream playlists for each song episode, and more. Our $5 Lilac tier gets you access to our private Facebook community where we host a monthly live stream. Plus, you'll get access to our Discord server where we host our monthly watch parties. And also on the Discord, you can join in on the discussion with other Magnolia Street neighbors via the various interesting channels and threads. And then here's the $8 Rose tier. This gets you access to extra audio visual content such as a once a month full-length video episode, unlimited bonus videos, uncut footage, cutting room floor footage, bloopers, outtakes, meditations, exclusive interviews, and old home videos from the vault, or spell or ritual videos, and more. It also gets you bonus content to coincide with our song-episodes, such as full-length demo streams of our original Practical Magic inspired music, plus lyric sheets, guitar chords, and original scratch demos, or bonus video performances of our songs and more. Lastly, we have our $15 Wisteria Vine tier. Just like a twisting Wisteria Vine, there's a way for you to stay connected with us, the Stinas. In this tier, we invite you to join our private Marco Polo video messaging app. The app is totally free for both Android and iOS. Sign up with your phone number or email, and we will help you do the rest. This is a great way to chat with each other in a more intimate group setting, face-to-face via video recording. We love to show each other our pets, our gardens, or anything else you'd like to share. And just a reminder that the higher the tier you sign up under, the more rewards you get, because you get all of the rewards of the tiers below it. You can upgrade or downgrade or even cancel at any time. So to support the podcast, head to patreon.com/Magnolia Street Podcast.
Yeah, and there are additional ways to support us and our podcast that don't cost you any money. If you do listen on Spotify, please give us a star rating. If you listen to us on Apple Podcasts, please give us a written review. We love sharing those on our Instagram. And if you're on Instagram, we would really appreciate any reposts or blurbs about our podcast. And make sure to tag us at Magnolia Street Podcast in your feed, posts, stories, and share us with your Practical Magic loving friends. All of our designs are over on our Teespring shop. If there are any designs over there that's not on something you want, let us know. We'll put it on that thing. And also hit us up on our socials. I know we didn't put this in often, but we do have a Facebook group.
Yeah.
If you want to find us on Facebook, it is public, but we also have a private Facebook group under that tier that we just told you about.
Yeah.
So come and find us.
Yeah, man. Follow us on Instagram. That we're really probably most active over there, right?
Yes,
On IG.
Yeah.
So I think that's all we got for today. So yeah, stay tuned for next Friday's episode on the spinster trope. That's gonna be a fun one to dive into.
Awesome. Okay.
But this has been great. This is a lot of fun. Glad to learn all of this stuff today. I'm Justina.
I'm Kristina. And we'll see you next time.
At the house on Magnolia Street, would you